Okay, we've resolved our technical difficulties, and I'm calling this meeting to order. Today is Friday, July 24th. It's 10 a.m. This is a regular meeting of the Central Nevada Regional Water Authority. We are in the Commission Chambers in Churchill County, and I want to personally thank the staff of Churchill County for setting up the room. There's water at every table. Thank you very much. It's appreciated. We love meeting here. Will you stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I want to welcome everybody in the room and on the phone to our meeting today. I want to send one message to the members of this board. It is very important that everyone responds to Jeff when he asks if you are going to be able to attend the meeting. It's stressful to sit in this room at 5 minutes until 10 and try to figure out if we're going to have a quorum. So it's very important that you respond, please. It only takes a minute to say yes or no. Jeff, will you call the roll, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Commissioner Ghetto?
I'm here online.
Oh, okay. Mr. Frey?
Present.
Commissioner Steninger?
Here on Zoom.
Commissioner Gale? Commissioner Perez?
Here.
Let's see, Ms. Boland?
Present.
Mr. Wagenseller? Here. Commissioner Plaskett?
Here on the Zoom, my plus one is Mr. Gallagher.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Etchegary? Okay. Mr. Gallagher, we have. Commissioner Brooks is informed me she's not able to make the meeting. Commissioner Edgar?
Yeah, I'm present here online.
For those of you that
I'm sorry?
Yes, he's here online, he said.
Who is that?
Commissioner Edgar.
Okay. Where were we? Commissioner Price. Commissioner Roos. Mr. Nixon. Mr. Dean. Commissioner Strickland.
Present. Good morning.
Good morning. Commissioner, Chair Easley.
Yep.
Mr. Miller. Commissioner Gottschalk.
Present online.
Okay. Mr. Mancebo.
Here.
Ms. Hudson.
Nice to see you.
Commissioner Vogler. Mr. Gibson. Mr. Odgers. Mr. Spross.
I'm Joe Sanford. I'm replaced Mr. Spross.
Okay.
Oh, your mic is right there. If you could say that on the record, please.
This is Joe Sanford. Mr. Spross is retired, and I'm the acting county manager here.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Welcome.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Tibbetts is not able to make the meeting. Commissioner Hill. Commissioner Helming. Commissioner
Robeson.
Commissioner Robeson. Okay, so let's add them up. I think I see Commissioner Gale's name on the call. Commissioner Gale, are you present? Oh, it's Commissioner Ghetto. Okay, so let's add up here.
I think we have 16.
If we have 16, then we definitely have a quorum. We just need to have six.
Yeah,
We
16.
do, okay.
All right, we have a quorum. Item number 2 on the agenda is public comment. This time is devoted to comments by the general public. This board does not take action on anything brought up under public comment until it's been included on a future agenda as an action item. Is there any public comment?
I know Dan Safner is going to make some public comment.
Hi, this is Dan Sapner with DRI.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, good morning. If it's okay, yeah, I'd like to give a quick public comment, quick update on the county water resource plans, if that's all right.
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'll just take a minute or two here. So, yeah, good morning, everyone. Just a brief update on the status of the county water resource plans that DRI is working on with 8 of Nevada's rural and frontier counties, of which I believe 6 of them are member counties of the Central Nevada Regional Water Authority. So we're working with Esmeralda, Elko, Lander, Mineral, Pershing, and White Pine. We have entered the part of the of this effort where we are documenting potential future development projects in each of these counties. So whether that be mining, energy, data centers, and potential future water demands associated with those projects. So just based on discussions that DRI has been having with these member counties, previous group discussions within CNRWA, I would just like to encourage additional coordination between these counties and CNRWA and DRI, especially as it pertains to thinking about documenting, monitoring, planning for these changes, or additional water demands associated with these future development projects. We have a good running list based on all of the discussions, all of the digging through public documents of these potential future development projects. So I have shared this list not only, of course, with the counties themselves, but also with Mr. Fontaine, and would welcome any additional discussions pertaining to those projects in the future. So DRI's involvement in this effort of working with the counties to develop and update their plans is funded through the end of this calendar year. So at that point, DRI's involvement will be finished. There are a few counties that aim to have their water resource plans in front of their Board of County Commissioners by the end of the calendar year. However, there certainly will be a few counties that plan to extend into 2027 before they present it to their boards. So that's my update. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Is there any other public comment? Hearing none, public comment is closed. We'll move to item number 3, which is the approval of the agenda. Jeff, is there anything you'd like to take out of sequence or pull from the agenda?
No, there are no changes that I would request.
All right, that's great. Item number 4 is the consent agenda. There are 7 items on the consent agenda. They were all in your backup. I assume that everyone has had a chance to read and study those consent items. Is there any item that a board member would like to have pulled for individual discussion?
No, I just need to say that I have to recuse myself. I have a conflict of interest. My contract extension is in the consent agreement.
Thank you for that disclosure. We appreciate that. I'll entertain a motion on items 1 through 7 on consent.
Motion to approve consent. Strickland?
Thank you, Commissioner Strickland. There's a motion by Commissioner Strickland to approve. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Hudson. Questions concerning the motion? Is there any additional discussion on this item? Is there any opposition to the motion? With no opposition, that motion passes not unanimously, 15-0-1, correct? You're abstaining?
Yes.
Yeah, so 15 in favor, 0 against, 1 abstention. Item 5 is a discussion and possible action to amend Section 6 of the professional services contract between this organization and Jeff Fontaine from an hourly cost to a flat fee. And this is something I brought up at the last board meeting and asked the board to consider for a number of reasons. You see the backup every meeting of Jeff's breakdown for what he's doing. I'll open up the floor for discussion on this item.
I look at all the time that he spends, this is Norm Frey, look at all the time that he spends doing the documentation. And in his contract, we have a right to audit anything that he presents. I would make a motion that, or start the discussion at approving the $40,000, including his expenses and payable quarterly.
I want to add one thing, Norm, to what you said. Jeff, when did you sign a contract with us? 2018 initially? Wasn't it 2018?
Actually, my first contract was in December
Yeah, it was before that.
2017,
Yes,
and then it was amended in 2018.
Yeah.
Since I formed an LLC since then.
so we've provided $40,000 in compensation for him annually. That amount has never been increased. It's included in our budget, and we can afford this. And Norm, as you said, when I was looking through his contract, this board has the right to audit all of his records and files at any time we deem necessary. I advocate just paying him $10,000 a quarter for a total of $40,000 on this contract, which must include his travel. So does anybody have a problem with that? Is there more discussion, or is there a motion?
Motion to approve the item as written?
That's a motion by Commissioner Strickland.
Strickland, sorry.
Roger, can you get on your mic?
This is Mancebo. I would second that.
Second by Commissioner Mancebo. Jeff, were you gonna?
Just a question, you said including travel.
You turned off your,
Just for a point of clarification, did you mean all expenses or just travel expenses? I think it's all expenses.
I think it's all expenses, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll make that clarification. It's all related expenses, including travel. I don't know if we need to add this as an amendment to Commissioner Strickland's motion and Commissioner Mancebo's second, but this should be payable at the, I believe, at the end of every quarter. And we need to transmit that information to somebody. And Deborah, Commissioner Strickland?
Yes, Chair.
If you could add that amendment, and it seems to me like there was one other thing I thought of. Payable at the end of every, just payable at the end of every quarter.
I would so amend that payment is to be made the end of every quarter and should include all expenses related to travel.
All expenses, yeah, because there are other expenses besides travel. He pays to have the agendas reproduced, that there are other expenses related. If he has to request a record
Wouldn't that be
from-
outside of this contract and just be sent to us via a
No, I
expense
don't think-
report?
No.
Because it shouldn't include, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
you're call, Chair,
Will you
thank
amend
you.
your second?
The second
Amends,
concurs.
yeah, okay, that's great. All right. Are there any, is there any additional discussion on this item?
Madam Chair, this is Nancy.
Yeah,
Olin.
Nance?
I
Yeah.
just wondered, like, if Jeff has to travel like out of state, that's my only worry about this. I know that the 40 would cover as usual in-state travel, but if he say had to go to Washington DC or Denver, Colorado or something, would that be enough? Or could we make it so that he could come back and ask for more money if he has to do that?
I think that's perfectly reasonable. Yes. And let the record reflect that. Is there any more discussion? Thank you for that, Commissioner Boland. Any additional discussion? Any questions concerning the motion? Does everyone understand the motion? Is there any opposition to the motion? With no opposition, that motion passes. And you'll take care of the details, Jeff?
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate the board's support.
Sure. Item 6 is a presentation on geothermal activities in Nevada by Robert Giglieri, who is the administrator of the Nevada Division of Minerals. Yeah, come on up here if you'd like. Actually, there's a chair right at the end here.
While Rob is getting organized here, I guess I should get organized as well. Rob Giglieri is, Giglieri, right? Giglieri. My apologies.
And you taught me how to say it. Sorry about that.
So we'll just go with Rob. So Rob is currently the administrator of the Nevada Division of Minerals. This is an organization, obviously within the state of Nevada government. And Rob received his degree in geology from UNR, started his career as an exploration geologist and precious metal exploration for a junior company in Nevada. He then, in 2012, started with the Division of Minerals, gained experience in their abandoned mine lands program, did some bond pool administration, agency administration, and I guess government relations as well. And he serves on a number of different organizations representing Nevada in the Interstate Mining Compact Commission, Interstate Oil and Gas Compact Commission, National Association of Abandoned Mine Lands Program, and he's also, Rob is also a member of the Nevada State Environmental Commission, and University of Nevada Mackey Advisory Board, and University of Nevada Center for Economic Development Advisory Board, so lots of representation. And I asked Rob to come do a presentation because, as you all know, geothermal seems like omnipresent, especially in the central region, which is the 10 member counties of this organization. And we have been involved, this organization's been involved in geothermal since, well, back in the days with the Nevada Association of Counties and Churchill County, and Norm Frey sitting
We had
here
lots of
is-
discussion about
Lots of
that.
discussion and lots of updates, and so I just thought, after all these years, it'd be great to have an update on sort of what's going on at the state level, what some of the new issues are in geothermal, and I'm especially interested and have been excited about some of the new technologies with regard to geothermal here in the state of Nevada. So Rob, it's all yours.
All right, thank you. We'll just ask for next slide. Yeah, okay, next slide. So again, the Commission of Mineral Resources by NRS, we're required to collect and disseminate information on the minerals industry.
Jeff?
Yes.
Just wanted to say that the screen's not sharing. Are you sharing slides?
We will get that taken care of here.
Thanks, Deborah.
We got Ann on there twice, huh?
Can you see it now?
No, we're not seeing anything.
There we go.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, perfect. So we're required by statute to collect and disseminate information on the minerals industry, and that includes oil, gas, and geothermal. We do operate Chapter 534A, which is the drilling for geothermal in the state of Nevada, so all drilling operations is permitted through the Division of Minerals. If you go anything past drilling, then you need to work with other agencies, mainly Division of Environmental Protection and their Underground Injection Control Program, and other permitting agencies within DEP. The division and commissioner try to be a resource to the public, to the legislature, to the governor's office, whoever is there. So we're trying to provide all publicly available information. And again, we show images and information on specific projects, but we don't give preference to any of those or any other projects, just providing publicly available data and information. Next slide, please. So here's the history of geothermal since it really started in 1985 with the average price per kilowatt hour in comparison. So you see 2024 was the highest year. 25 is really similar to that same number. I think it went down a little bit because of some maintenance on a few operations. But we are seeing an increase of this year over year for the most part since the mid-2000s. Next slide. Here's the history of geothermal energy by two things. One, the year that the plant went online, and two, their nameplate capacity. Again, nameplate capacity is not what's actually hitting the grid. Nameplate is what they have the ability to produce, then they take off the parasitic load, or what they're actually able to produce is less than this, but this is it over the years. You can see there was some early production, and that Dixie Valley one on the kind of left side of the screen, near 70 megawatt nameplate capacity is again one of the highest. Just remember that when we start talking about some of the newer technologies and what they're talking long-term.
Rob, could you explain parasitic load?
So the parasitic load is the energy it takes to operate the plant.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So it's that energy, it takes energy to create and operate the plant. So let's say, and this is not an exact number, let's say if it's a 50 megawatt nameplate capacity, they may only produce 35 to 40 megawatts of energy to the actual grid.
Okay, got
But
it.
this is what, in a perfect world, they would be able to produce, right?
Yes, okay.
Next slide, please. So geothermal leasing on federal lands is all across the state. The only counties I cut off was the southern part of Nye, Lincoln, and Clark County. Outside of that,
Because there isn't any?
there isn't any right now at this point in time. You could see stuff all the way in the very northeast corner of Elko County to around here, but you look in Churchill County, in Pershing County, there is definitely a lot of activity. The biggest hotspot we're seeing right now in the state of Nevada with multiple companies in the same area is just north of town here, just north of Fallon. But we're seeing a lot of activity in it. And traditionally, geothermal lease sales, they would generally go for a bid price. And so this is a bonus price of anywhere from $5 to $15, maybe $20 per acre. It's kind of a standard, right? That's a bonus price that you pay for that acreage. And then it's a 10-year lease with the option to renew, and there's an annual fee that comes to that every single year. And that annual fee is actually 50% to the state, which goes to the general education fund, 25% to the county, 25% to the feds to operate the program. So there is a funding source on an annual basis to the county just from them holding these leases. Again, there's big acreage in here on this, and most of these operations are actually a small, tiny percent of a fraction of what those leases are, but there's that lease revenue that comes in. But October, they had the biggest lease sale so far by record in history. Over $9 million worth of leases were sold, and the highest bid was $410. So like I was saying, traditionally, it was around $20 or maybe even less per acre. Somebody paid $410 per acre just to hold a single lease. That's the bid price. And then it comes back down to that lower standard annual price. And if somebody starts producing, then there's a royalty on that, and that royalty is split the same way, 50, 25, 25. Next slide, please. So permitting oversight, there's a lot of oversight depending on which aspect. So if you're on private land, the state we have listed all the agencies that are involved with it. And then on the federal side, if it's on federal land, there's going to be aspects of all of those incorporated into it. The biggest one is the Geothermal Steam Act on the federal side, which allows for the federal leasing of geothermal energy. And then on the state side, Division of Minerals 534A, DEP with 445A, 445B for air pollution, aspects of 533 and 534 for water rights if there's consumptive use. And then all the other little aspects, Public Utilities Commission for selling it. If there's any special use permits or anything else at the local or county level will need to be acquired by these operators as well. Next slide. Here is the permitting and drilling history since our agency has been tracking it in 1985. You saw in the mid-2000s there was a huge spike of these. But a lot of these, if you look closely, they're actually called thermal gradient wells. And so thermal gradient wells are exploration wells, where it's basically a glorified borehole where they're drilling down to get the thermal gradient of the ground, right? They're trying to see temperature. They're not allowed to intersect a resource. They're not allowed to intersect with it. Most of them are plugged and abandoned or turned into observation wells. And a lot of those in the mid-2000s were actually a older technology or older style of exploration where they kind of gridded basins, right? They pillar out a grid, start drilling grids, and then narrow down where they're actually looking and targeting. And you can see there's a lot of them permitted, but not very many of them actually drilled in that time frame. They would permit a lot more, permit for maybe 50 wells, and then only drill 20, if not less of those. But we're seeing realistically 24 and 25, we're getting a big uptick in permits again, as well as drilling activities are coming up again. Drilling this year is a little bit slower than we anticipated. One of that is because rig availability is really difficult, right? There isn't a lot of geothermal rigs sitting in the state of Nevada, right? A couple wells are drilled every year, and they're actually using oil and gas rigs. Oil and gas prices went up recently, or they still are very high. So those rigs are actually being pulled back into Utah, Colorado, and other areas. So rig access has been difficult. Ormat and Open Mountain are the only two companies that I believe have their own rigs, and there are a few of them running right now in the state. So we do see an increased activity in permitting as well as drilling within the state of Nevada. Next slide. So here is the generalized version of the types of geothermal power plants and how they work. Traditional, the oldest method on the left is a dry steam, very, very hot, dry geothermal energy comes up, goes through the turbine itself, through a cooler, and then some of these were re-injected, some of them were not. So if you remember ever driving to Reno 15 years ago, you always see that steam plume, right? That was a dry steam. That's no longer, right? They've converted it, re-injected it, and so that water is now being reused and re-injected back down. The geysers in California is another one people think about. So that's kind of the older way, and the one in Steamboat was a flash steam, right? It wasn't a dry steam. And then you go to the in between the two, where it's a flash steam power plant, where it's flash hot steam. They go to a flash tank. Not all of it's hot enough to go through the turbine, so that gets re-injected. But the stuff that is hot enough goes through the turbine and comes down. The most common use now, and what we're seeing every single power plant use, is a binary system. So what it does is you bring the hot water up and goes through a heat exchanger, and that heat exchanger has a fluid that boils at a lower temperature, right? So you're able to use lower temperature waters. That is then boils, goes through the turbine, through the cooler, and then back in. So the actual geothermal fluid goes to that heat exchanger, never interacts with the turbine, and then is then re-injected back down into the ground, giving residents time to heat back up and then come up again. So the binary cycle, most plants in Nevada use an organic Rankine cycle, ORC, which was developed by Ormat in the 80s. That is the most common type that's used all over the world. Some developers have their own version of that, but that's truly the most common plant and what we're seeing used for every plant moving forward at this point in time, is that binary cycle. Next slide, please. So last year, the USGS had fun, and they dropped this map. And the title of this article was, "Enhanced Geothermal Systems in the Great Basin Could Supply of 10% of the U.S. electrical demand." Not just Nevada, the U.S. electrical demand, which is obviously magnitude scale larger than what geothermal is able to produce right now. So they put out an updated heat map, and you can see northern Nevada is definitely where majority of that heat is. And so we do see this, and we do see a lot of exploration in this area in northern Nevada and Utah. Idaho is looking into it as well. Oregon actually has a rig running right now in Oregon for a geothermal plant in southeastern Oregon. So there are activities going on, but this is a big aspect in the enhanced geothermal and this newer technology that I'll talk about here in a little bit, and how the impact it's going to have or could potentially have on the state of Nevada. Next
They
slide.
might have a lot of resources, but I don't know about the transmission, either the capacity
yeah.
or the existence of transmission lines. You have to wheel the power somewhere.
Exactly. And so that's one of the things too is, right, it has the opportunity to do it, but the infrastructure really doesn't exist right now. You look at the Greenlink projects, right?
Yeah,
They haven't been
right.
built, and from my understanding, all that energy has already been allocated,
Yeah.
right? So there's gonna need to be more availability for transporting the power or behind the grid power type solutions.
Right,
Data centers could do it.
yeah.
Okay. So this slide kind of shows the key differences between enhanced geothermal and conventional geothermal. The image on the right is taken from the Clean Air Task Force hot rock report that they put out. And theirs is looking at a little bit different technology than what we're seeing proposed, but it's being looked at. And so this is called super hot rock, where if you could look, that scale, it's hard to see, but they're talking 3 to 5 kilometers depth of what they're looking to drill. So very, very deep drilling, what they're looking at to do. But it's the same concept of drilling to depths. Right now, most enhanced geothermal wells that we're looking at are anywhere from 10 to 12,000 feet, sometimes 15,000 feet surface below, and then they go horizontal. So they're much, much deeper than conventional. Conventional geothermal right now in the state of Nevada, the average well depth is about 4,000 feet, so more than double that. But what they're looking at these is they're looking at 100 megawatt plus proposed projects, right? These are much larger. I believe in Utah right now through their Fervos project in Utah, they're looking at a total in that basin 500 megawatt energy production, right? The biggest in Nevada is McGinnis Hills outside of Austin, which is multiple power plants, and they're just over 100 megawatts, right? So these are much larger. Some of them have mentioned gigawatts of energy. We haven't seen that yet, but they're much larger energy producers, and they're much larger scale. Again, like I said, they're much deeper, 10,000 plus feet before they go lateral, so they're much deeper. The difference is this technology is the idea of there's hot rock if we could get to it. Conventional geothermal, you need hot rock, you need porosity in the rock, and you need water. You need all three of them, which is hard to find. This is, they're able to drill down, as long as they have that hot rock, they could create the porosity with stimulation and then bring water into it, right? And then once you stimulate, you develop your geothermal resource down below, you charge it with water, then you're able to circulate it, and at that point in time, it should be a, circulation of fluid and constant energy for the foreseeable future. The things that we're learning and what we're watching for what's happening in other states, in Utah mainly, and what they've already done in Nevada, how much water is required to charge that aquifer, is there any leak off in that water, and then is there cool off over time, right? You bring into a fluid and you keep circulating, what type of cool off is happening? Right now, it's too early to tell how long it is, but we expect, just like conventional geothermal, where they hit an equilibrium of the amount of water flow and everything else. Like in the traditional plants, you could drill down, let's say it started at 350 degrees Fahrenheit, but after 15 years, it's settled at 290 degrees. It's still efficient enough to make energy, but it's not staying at that same peak. We're still have to wait and see where they end up. But they're also targeting a lot higher temperatures. Fervo actually just drilled a well that exceeded 550 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So they're testing the limits of drilling technologies.
Yeah,
Of how
I
to
know.
drill and maintain your mud, maintain your bit, maintain everything at those temperatures. So that's really what's a big thing that's holding back those temperatures, is the drilling technology itself, and they're on a daily basis testing that and trying to figure out ways to do deeper and hotter at that point in time.
Rob, I have a question.
Yes.
Is it okay to interrupt?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay. With your injection wells, is there any requirement, I think I know the answer, is there any requirement to treat the water before it goes back?
So with these at this moment in time, with conventional geothermal, they're pulling that geothermal brine that's coming up
Yeah.
from it. It is in a closed loop system. They're reinjecting it right
That's
back
what
in.
I thought. Okay.
However, NDEP in their UNC program does chemistry testing, does ensure that it's the same water going in,
Yeah.
coming out, going back in, as well as they have monitoring systems for that. So there's monitoring
Yeah.
for around all injection programs. They have a monitoring system for water wells in that.
Yeah, because it's not necessarily the same for every industry.
No,
Like mining.
exactly.
It's-
And
yeah.
the conventional geothermal, the water is generally very brackish, right? It
Right.
is high amount of total dissolved solids
Yeah.
within it. They are looking at the possibility, like in the geysers in Utah, they're currently using wastewater from their local municipality to re-inject into the geysers to try to recharge those geothermal resources there. But it's just different depths, and isolation of that too. During our drilling permits, there's multiple casings, so there's a surface casing that may go down to 300 feet, then the conductor casing that could go for, let's say, one of these enhanced geothermals, 4,000 to 5,000 feet, and that whole thing is cased and cemented along the outside, isolating it from any other aquifer. And then they have production casing, which will be cemented for, depending on the type of well, a couple hundred feet in the connection between the conductor and the production, or a couple thousand feet, depending on the type and design of that well. So we do make sure that there's isolation of any freshwater aquifer through the drilling design of that.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Chris Wagenseller, Esmeralda County, you said when you go down the rock that doesn't have
Chris, could you
water-
get closer to your mic, please?
You're talking about when they drill into rock that doesn't.
You turned it off. Sorry, I'm sorry.
You were talking about when they drill down into rock that doesn't have water to do stimulation, is that fracking?
Yeah, it is
Okay.
a type of fracking, yeah, exactly. And so,
It's a great question.
there's a big difference between the fracking, what you see in oil and gas wells, and for this. It's the same technology, nothing's changed in that. It's just there is no hydrocarbons or gases that you're interacting with. It is truly just going into a rock and breaking it up using high-pressured water, proppants, and other activities like that. There isn't that connection with a methane or hydrocarbon that you would anticipate with oil and gas, which is what they're targeting, right?
Okay. What was Mary Jane talking about? Something explosive? Gas?
I think that was, you kind of mentioned.
Fred, your mic is off.
Fred Perez, Esmeralda County.
You're off again, sorry.
Yeah. So one of our commissioners, and I had heard something about this earlier, and I was thinking of asking this question, but now I'm asking.
Yeah.
You mentioned geothermal fluid, the recycled one in the closed loop. There's been talk about it's explosive, and my thought is, I'm kind of in a position at this point where I want to find out, what is it?
Where did you hear that?
From one of our commissioners in a meeting 2 weeks ago, and I had
Okay.
kind of heard something about that earlier, but for me, is I don't want to jump to
Yeah,
any
yeah,
conclusion without, kind of figuring out what does that mean, what is the science?
Yeah.
and-
Yeah, and so in the organic Rankine cycle type binary systems, they use a refrigerant type fluid. That is what it can be, and those could be considered an explosive, right? And so there is, in the permitting of that, it's that binary fluid that is used to circulate the turbines. It's not the fluids that are actually the geothermal waters. Those are going through a heat exchanger. That heat exchanger, it keeps the fluid separate, right? It's just the geothermal fluid going through that, the binary fluid going through that. But anything in the actual geothermal fluids, I have not heard of an explosive.
Okay, so that's the start for me. And
Okay.
from what I understood, it would be, I don't think the concern is what are we doing to the water? It's what's in the closed loop. Is it explosive? And I'm trying to figure that out. And this
Yeah.
is my
And
first
so-
time to ever ask.
I'm going to have to research into that. Is generally refrigerant of, what you would see in your refrigerator, or what used to be in the refrigerators of refrigerant. That is the fluid that they're using.
So a Freon type.
Yeah, exactly.
Chairman, in the past, they used butane. That's explosive. They did not like my brother, the crop duster, aiming towards their butane tank. They get very nervous.
Yeah.
But then they moved on to R134A type refrigerants, which is automotive refrigerant. You have it in your car. And so up at Chena Hot Springs in Fairbanks, Alaska, they said, you can't make geothermal energy because you don't have a hot enough resource. But R134A flashes at like 80 degrees instead of butane at 200, whatever. And so he started making his own geothermal energy that way. He says, it's just a matter of what fluid. So that kind of kicked it off. But in the past, yeah, there was some explosive stuff out there that your fire department needed to know about.
Okay, Fred Perez, Esmeralda County again. Thank you, Norm. The fluid was similar to butane, but they had a fancier name. And this is all good for me to hear. I think the concern was at the top of Fish Lake Valley where there's a couple plants proposed and kind of a concern. But I will follow up on this and ask more questions, but I think maybe we can put that to rest.
Yeah, I will do some research, and I didn't want to say what fluids are because I cannot remember off the top of my head. right? But I will get that information to Jeff, and so he could distribute what are the fluids that the current existing operators are using and what's being proposed in the future. I could try to get that information to you guys. I'm taking a note so I don't forget to do that.
Thank you.
And while Rob is taking some notes, I just want to comment on the enhanced geothermal system that Rob mentioned in Utah. It's actually in Beaver County. It's in southern Utah. It's full bore. I mean, it's, the capacity that he's talking about is real. They're in the first phase. And it's been a big boost to their economy in Beaver County, transitioning away from what used to be mostly agriculture and processing types of businesses to now this. But the other important point is that the transmission line is actually coming through Nevada to tie it into the grid. So it's going to come into Nevada, northern Lincoln County, and then down into southern Nevada. So there is a connection there.
Yeah. And again, each one of these is going to have their own power purchase agreement, and depending on where that is and who is the buyer at that point in time. One thing I want to cover on this slide before we move off real quick is the need to charge the geothermal resource, right? So they have to bring water in. Up front, the water consumption is high. It's a lot of fluids, acre feet, measured in acre feet, right? But there is an early estimate that over the life of a 30-year project, it would actually be 14 gallons per megawatt hour over that life. Again, this is taking from an industry report because we don't have the information outside of DOD.
Could everybody on the line mute your phones if they're not muted already?
So that's where we're looking and watching that, right? That water consumption to charge it is gonna take a lot up front for the stimulation activities, the charging of it. But in the lifetime of the well, they would anticipate small leak off, and that's what we want to monitor too. What is that leak off, right? Because you're gonna inject it, you're not gonna be able to get 100% of that water back, but is it 98%, is it 99%, or is it 80%, right? Because that's gonna make a big difference in the life of the project. So we're watching that. We're trying to figure that out, and so is, DWR is working with these proponents because they have to acquire that water right now from somewhere, right? Once it gets in there and they start circulating, it will then fall under NRS 534A, where it's a non-consumptive use because you're circulating that water, right? That water's already been acquired, put underground, circulating it. But until then, right now, the way it's being interpreted is they will have to get that water. If they buy the water, lease the water, whatever way they acquire it, they're gonna have to get that water underground, charge it, and then they'll have that process. So it will be accounted for before that.
Sorry if I can interrupt. So for this system, or a system like this, the water right would be a consumptive or non-consumptive right?
Both. So they're gonna have to get the water through some sort of consumptive right. If they buy it from a rancher, if they get a water right themselves, if they lease the water. But once it's underground and it's circulating, it's non-consumptive. There isn't a need for it. However, let's say they do have a 2% leak off and they have to recharge that aquifer at that 2%. That 2% would be a consumptive use, right? And so anytime they're adding new water to the system, they would have to acquire it some way or the other.
That would obviously have to go through a state process through the state engineer's office to do a change in manner of use.
Exactly.
And place.
Okay, I guess maybe I didn't ask the question correctly. Initially, the initial application for water is for consumptive or non-consumptive?
It would be consumptive.
Okay, but then at some point it changes to non-consumptive?
Once, yeah, exactly, right?
Okay.
They have to acquire, let's say it's a 10,000 acre feet to charge that
Okay.
aquifer. They have to get the rights for that 10,000 acre feet, right? They put it underground. They don't have to, again, get another 10,000 to circulate that water, right? Once it's circulating, it's the same water being circulated through it, right?
okay.
It's the same water going up and back down. They're pumping it up, taking the energy off of it, spinning the turbine, re-injecting
Right.
it, let it get heated back up, and then recirculating it, right? So we wanted to make sure that there isn't that duplicative water right needed for every time you're pumping 10,000 acre feet, that you don't have to get another 10,000 acre feet of water rights because you've already acquired that water. and you're using it.
it's not acre feet annually, it's acre feet period.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Wow, that is very
Okay,
interesting.
so one time.
However, let's say they have a 97% success or 97%, and they have 3% that may flow off, and they need to recharge that 3%, let's say it's 5 acre feet. They may have a 5 acre feet annual water right to recharge, to add fluid to it, to keep the pressures that they want to maintain subsurface.
And when would that typically occur, that somewhere in the process after some testing period and
Yeah,
things
yeah.
like that?
I mean, that's what we're trying to watch right now in Utah,
Okay.
right? That's what we're watching. How much are they having to recharge to it? How much water are they potentially losing subsurface, right? The first 2 wells of this technology was ever done was in Nevada, outside of Winnemucca, near the Blue Mountain plant, right? And they had what was considered kind of a higher leak off, but that's because it was next to an existing geothermal plant that already had that porosity, right? It was already there, and they're already using that same fluids, right? It's the same system, so it was higher leak off, but they knew that going into it, and it was shallower, only 8,000 feet instead of 12 to 14,000 feet, or what we're starting to see.
Sorry, and maybe you have this on another slide, but what does the landscape look like, particularly for the 10-member county central region, for potential for this type of enhanced geothermal?
It's high. The potential's
Yeah.
high.
Okay.
We have seen, obviously, like we talked about, Fervo has a project just north of town. They have multiple leases. Ormat is looking at it and is looking at these technologies, incorporating a version of conventional and enhanced geothermal. Open Mountain Energy has looked into it. Zanskar has looked into it, but we've also
Yeah,
seen.
Zanskar, they made the big blind discovery through AI, and I was gonna specifically ask you about that.
Yeah, we could talk about
Where-
that.
okay.
We'll get to that one a
Okay.
little bit, right? But we're also have seen some of the major international oil companies bringing people into the state and looking at this and getting leases through subsidiaries and looking at this technology as an opportunity for energy generation, right? A lot is weighing on Utah to kind of see what's going on because they need the investors. Again, these wells are not cheap. They're talking maybe 60 wells for a project, if not more, that are $5 to $10 million each, right? The investment to just drilling is significant, and that's not the cost to build these power plants. So there's significant investment that wants to go. It's emerging technology. Is it going to be 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years? I can't tell you, but I think it is coming.
Money will drive it.
There's money out there.
Yeah. And the demand for need for energy is there. Okay, next slide, please. All right, so what we're doing for this, it was over a year ago. I hate to say it's over a year ago. But we got a call from Churchill County and asking about the CORSAC project that Fervo has here and talking about stimulation, saying what's the risk for induced seismicity on these? And so we did a lot of research into it, and we determined that we needed to have some better regulations within our 534A. So we started the rulemaking process. And in that rulemaking process, we're adding a section of stimulation. We're adding a pre and post stimulation water sampling process and monitoring. We're adding an induced seismicity section and induced seismicity monitoring plan. And then we're just updating some of our permitting processes. A lot of our fees were set in 1999 and haven't been updated, and it costs a little bit more for the agency to manage than it did in 1999, so we're updating those as well. However, the main things are the stimulation and induced seismicity. Those are the 2 things that we focused on. We went through a round of public comments last August. Things got delayed because that was the same Tuesday, or the Monday before was when the IT issue happened at the state, so I didn't even have access to my data for 6 weeks on it. So we got a lot of information caught up. We went through another round of notice of intent to adopt in, I want to say March or February. We realized there's a lot more information on there, so we went through another round of editing on it, and it's currently sitting with the Legislative Council Bureau. At that point in time, we'll get it back out to the public. We'll send it to NACO, so it gets to all the counties as well. And then probably have one more workshop, see where we're at with that, and then depending on the changes, either adopt or go through another round of editing. We feel that it's getting really close. We feel that it is a good tool for the state to have. I do not believe that any other state, I was on a call with the Interstate Oil Gas Compact Commission yesterday where we're talking only geothermal. I don't think any other state truly has regulations in place either on enhanced geothermal. Other states, Utah, Colorado, and others are developing it as we speak too. So we are leading that effort. We're trying to incorporate it in it, but you could see on the USGS estimate that came out last year, that very top red dot, that little tiny one is existing geothermal energy production in the US. They think there's a possibility of the bottom, right? A significant change. That's not just Nevada. That is everywhere. They believe if they could drill deep enough that they'll be able to hit and use this technology potentially even in the East Coast, right? Texas, one thing they're definitely looking at is spent oil and gas fields in the, Texas Smackover Formation all the way through Kansas and up. They have higher temperatures, but enhanced geothermal, AGS, and next generation geothermal are all technologies that are being developed as we speak. So we're just watching that. We just wanted to ensure in our regulations that we have the ability to properly regulate the stimulation and due seismicity of these, as well as have pre and post stimulation, water sampling through those. So that is our changes that we're doing right now. Next slide, please. And then one last thing that we've heard a lot of is this conversation is quieted down, thank you, I appreciate that. But lithium from geothermal, direct lithium extraction technology, DLE, is a real technology that is being developed. It was proven in Nevada, it's been proven in Canada, and they're looking in the Smackover Formation as well of, can you produce lithium out of these geothermal brines, right? It is still being looked at, it is still there. There is a lot of issues with it in many ways because geothermal is a leasable mineral on federal land, but lithium is locatable, so they did have different laws governing them. The Geothermal Steam Act allows for some of it to be produced under the act for 75% of the value has to be geothermal steam, but if you could get up to 25% byproduct. There are different types of claims. There's different technologies associated with it. There's water rights, consumption, byproduct. There's a lot of things that have to be evaluated with it. We're watching it. We're trying to pay attention to it, but it is just something to remind yourselves that they're looking at the energy, but they're also looking, especially like the Smackover Formation for oil and gas, there's a lot of lithium in those brines. And so they're hot and there's lithium in it, so they're looking at trying to benefit from both of those. So we'll see where this goes. Direct lithium technology or direct lithium extraction technology is vital. If that doesn't prove out the way they anticipate, this won't move forward in that way. So, next slide. Again, if you need more information on where these are located or permits, geothermal has a 5-year confidentiality. So under statute, none of the drilling results and information like that is available until after 5 years. But everything that we have that is publicly available is on our open data site or links to the websites of the recent permits. You could go into that and you could go click on each well, who has it, what the megawatt, when it was drilled, the history of the production of power plants over the years. It has oil, gas, geothermal all in there. So it's a resource to use. If you have questions, just reach out, send us an email, and we'll get you guys walking in the right direction on it. It's one of those applications, you open it, and you're gonna get overwhelmed because there's so much data. But once you learn how to use it, it's extremely effective. And then after that, I think that's it for me. Questions, additional questions?
Yes, Big
Yes, Kat.
Blind. And I've read a lot on that, and I understand, well, they're very vague. They don't say exactly where it is. They say that it's in Nye County, in the area of Tonopah. Do you have any more information than that? And that they discovered it using AI.
Yeah, so they're not the only company using AI and other tools. So basically what people are realizing is there's a lot of historic subsurface data sets out there. And they're trying to use these tools to analyze it and look for higher potential zones, right? Instead of having to pay to start doing thermal gradient wells and getting leases, what existing data is out there? And so they create their own proprietary formulas and systems to look for what they want to see. Blind geothermal systems, let's say enhanced geothermal wasn't on the table. Let's just say that wasn't on the table. Blind geothermal systems that do not have a surface expression are the future for conventional geothermal in the state of Nevada, and that is still moving forward. Ormat's been doing this for a long time. CERC did it, Open Mountain's looking at it. There are plenty of plants that are blind, that are existing. It's just different methods to how to identify them. The Bureau of Mines and Geology with the University of Nevada has a geothermal center where they have a drilling program where they're trying to develop ways to better identify these systems, identify systems that don't have that surface expression. So we see that going forward. If you want to look on our website, you could see every Zanskar permit, and it has the location, township, range, and section, so you can see where they are. I've heard a couple different things about those in those blind systems and on the news, and you know, some of them, there was old mineral exploration that they abandoned because it was too hot, right? Data like that exists that nobody can use to compile, right? So, yes, it was AI, but it was AI using existing data sets to help them target better, is what it was.
Yeah, there was a mine right in Tonopah. They were all underground operations at that time, but there was so much hot water that they piped it up and piped it across the valley, and there was a 1,000-acre truck farm down there. They were using all of this underground water to grow trees and crops, and yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a bit of exploration in that region. I believe it was published within the last month. Ormat just did the emergency permitting through the EA for their Pearl project right in that area too.
Yeah.
Right, so that one has gone through the BLM permitting, it hasn't gone through all the state permitting.
Do you know much about the geothermal in Big Smoky Valley? I lived out there for 10 years, so I know there's geothermal there, but I don't know if the water's hot enough.
And that's the thing too with it, there's active exploration going on. I don't even look at the temperatures because it's confidential. I don't even want to know it in my head for 5 years, right?
I get it. Yeah.
But there is exploration going on in that region. I mean, you looked at if we go to the slide where it had the leases on it, it's all over the state.
Yeah.
So there's people looking for it. Again,
Yeah.
it's going to be
you
funding,
too.
right? It's going to be funding. Like I said, it's $5 to $10 million per well, and some of
Yeah.
these projects are 60, 80 wells. It's a lot of money to build it out. It's gonna take some time.
If I looked at your map correctly, it seems like there are some geothermal opportunities on the test site, yes?
Yes,
And is there any
so,
movement by the government to take advantage of that?
there has been movement. So just here in Fallon, this facility did drill geothermal wells, I don't remember how long ago, 15, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, right? They
Yeah.
did some exploration. And the Army base in Hawthorne is currently looking at exploration for geothermal, right? The Department of Navy or Army, I forget which branch, is Army
In
Army
Fallon?
or Navy, one of them has a geothermal branch themselves.
Oh,
I forget which one it is off the top of my head, but they do, so they have been looking, and there is opportunities, absolutely.
Out by Naval Air Station Fallon, there was a public official that was doing exploration, and he sent down his thermometer to test the temperature of the resource, and it burned his thermometer right off the end of his stick. So it can get really hot.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you. You mentioned the geothermal leases and the rates and things like that. You mentioned that there was the biggest lease sale within the last year? Or
Yeah, it was
maybe a little
October. So
lower?
we generally do it on an annual basis, so this next one, it's every October, so this next one will be October of
So
26.
this is a question that was brought up in our chambers of when will the county see the result of that sale?
That sale generally comes available within a day or two. And it is public, you could watch the sale, you could sign in and
Well,
watch.
the sale happens,
Yeah.
but when does the county see the revenue?
That's a great question. I can't answer that either. I had to spend a lot of time trying to figure out where that money was going at the state level, and eventually found it through opennevada.gov, and it was, I think, fiscal year 24 or 25, it was like $7 point something million through leasing leasing and royalties went to Department of Education. That is a question for BLM Nevada and then the headquarters of how and when does that get paid? And I'd love to know that question too.
Okay, well, there's a lot of people in Esmeralda.
Up until
that-
2005, the Geothermal Steam Act had said that the money from the resources on federally managed lands, now there's a lot of geothermal resources on private lands too. And those people get the revenues. But on federally managed lands, was supposed to go to the communities where the resource was developed. But the state took it, the check was written to the state took the money and put it in the distributive education fund. And so you'd have to go after the kids to get your money. And I had a guy tell me about that, and I made a statement in a meeting one day that that's what was happening. And they says, the federal government, and this is what's so weird, a guy from the federal government stood up from behind me and said, we will give you half of ours. Federal employees don't do that stuff.
That's a brilliant
That
political
happened,
move,
and
actually.
we ended up getting half of the federal portion, half of the federal half, so. It was very
And
interesting.
you know what, Norm? It doesn't matter what the state gets, it's never enough.
Correct.
Never.
But one more
Sorry,
thing,
no,
Joni.
no.
I received none of that money. We're fee funded, so.
Okay.
So, Joni, one of my questions is, it's been floated that there's 50% to the feds, 25 to the state, 25 to the county.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
So that's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
Is when?
Yeah.
Probably every.
It's supposed to be 50 to the state, 25 county, 25 feds.
Oh, 50, okay.
Yeah. And again, one more thing too on this is geothermal is considered a mineral right, and it actually also has a net proceeds and minerals tax
You know
on it as
what, I
well.
was gonna, that is was
Yep.
my next
So it
question.
does have
I
that
was
tax as well.
wondering if there was a net proceeds.
There is. And so last legislative session, or a couple years ago, the state, everybody at the state agencies had to look for publicly identifiable information and start removing those, so reports that had to get removed. Well, unfortunately, the net proceeds and minerals bulletin, which was published every year, was considered one of those. And actually, they pulled taxation because of this rule. They had to pull all of them down. And so that information wasn't even publicly available.
Yeah.
And so last session, my agency and others, we worked with a couple assemblymen to get that exempted. It's like exemption O out of all of them, right, going all the way down. So that way it is publicly available again. So that is all now reposted on the taxation's website. It's publicly available. Anybody could go look at it for determining, what was paid and what wasn't paid at that point in
Yeah.
time.
I have a question. Chris Wagensiller, Esmeralda County. You mentioned the per acre rates for drilling. What's the royalty rate?
I can't remember off the top of my head, to be
And
honest.
that's divided up the
And
same way?
yes, it is divided up the same way. The rate changes, the royalty rate changes over time. And so I would have to look at that, and I'll get a note and get you that information. What is the royalty rate? And it's over a point in time it changes to. I think it's after like 5 or 10 years, it increases actually the royalty on it.
So, Fred Perez, Esmeralda County, we were in our land use meeting yesterday, and there was a representative from BLM. I don't know if this number's accurate, but he threw out 3.9.
That sounds correct. But it changes though, right? So what is that 3.9? The first couple years, the last couple years, the end of life of it, I don't remember. I will get you that information.
And is that in addition to the net proceeds tax? Okay, thank you.
Are there any questions?
It's in addition of the net proceeds and the annual lease payments too. So there's 3 revenues that should be coming to the counties through that.
Does anybody on the telephone have any questions?
Yes, I got my hand raised here. This is Lamont Edgar in Lander County. I just got a couple questions. Some of them have already been kind of hit right here. One, I guess this starts out for me, if a geothermal plant has gone through the permitting process, which is pretty streamlined without a lot of resistance. But what happens when now there's the talks of the lithium extraction from the brine? So that becomes something entirely different. And I'm glad you guys brought up net proceeds. I mean, because it's a whole different kind of permit. So my question is if these geothermal plants have not, during their permitting process, specifically said that they're gonna be extracting lithium, do they have to start the permitting process again, saying that they're going to get lithium extraction out of that brine? Thank you.
I appreciate that question. I had to ask that same exact question to the BLM. And the answer is it's never been done, but it would, yes, they would have to then file a plan of operation for the lithium extraction because it's a locatable mineral. Although it's the same facility and some of the existing studies from the geothermal plant can be used for that, it is its own separate permit. And you would do either, if it's an existing geothermal operation, you would then file for a plan of operation for the lithium. If you're going into a new system, you may go through and file for the plans of operation for lithium and then come in and file a separate plan for geothermal. It hasn't been tested, so the correct way has not been determined, but that is a question I asked the BLM and they said, yes, you would have to do a separate plan of operations for the lithium extraction. Plus, it would be a different processing facility too in itself.
Okay, thank you very much.
I'm sorry, I did not notice that you had your hand up, so my apologies. Does anyone else on the phone have a question? Any other questions in the room? Rob, would you like to do a final?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to come talk. And again, if anybody has questions, please reach out. We're happy to help. Again, my agency is the agency that deals with all the drilling permits.
Yes.
However, we are generally seeing stuff, because we're dealing with the drilling, we're seeing stuff earlier, right? My agency is also, by law, every operator, including mine operations, are required to report their annual status and production to us. So we see that information too. And then we get, once that's acquired, we generally work with taxation and we cross-reference data. Mainly they cross-reference our data because we don't see the taxation data because of issues with that. But they, to ensure that companies are reporting both of us the same, right? So, again,
Thank you very
reach out
much.
for information if you have any questions.
Can you leave business cards if you have any? Thank you. Thanks.
Jeff's got my email as well.
Okay.
Rob, thanks for, really appreciate it. Great presentation.
We're moving to item
Right
7.
on
This,
time.
Sometimes getting out of Parsons.
I hear you, especially if you gotta go down William Street.
Item 7 is a discussion and possible action to amend Resolution 0601 of CNRWA, which sets criteria for protesting water rights applications before the Nevada State Engineer. Jeff, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So, this resolution is likely the very first resolution that I could find anyway in the files that was ever adopted by the Central Nevada Regional Water Authority back in 2006, and at that time there were 6 member counties of CNRWA. And this is a resolution, so far as I can tell, has not ever been amended in any way. And so the original PDF version, as you can see, which I try to convert, or I should say, a hard copy, which I try to convert to a PDF file, didn't even come out very well. But in any event, we can read it, and this is what CNRWA has been using since then for the last 20 years. When there is discussion and consideration of filing a protest for a water right application. And things have changed. There are new situations that have come up in the last 20 years. And just, conditions have changed. And so I thought it was really important to bring this back to the board for consideration for possible amendments. And I'm going to bring up a couple of things that I struck me in reading through this resolution that are situations that have come up, and probably the most recent one has to do with an email that I received about 3 weeks ago from a member of the Walker River Paiute Tribe regarding their concerns. And of course, the Walker River Paiute Tribe is in Mineral County, northern portion of Mineral County. They were concerned, they are concerned about the impacts of the use of water for a data center project in Mason Valley on the flows in the Walker River, as well as other potential impacts, and asked for CNRWA to sort of intervene or get involved in the process. And I emailed back that while we don't have any authority to do anything like require them to do studies or any of that, I did include a copy of our data center policy, which this board had adopted back in April, and copied our board members from Mineral County, our CNRWA board members on Mineral County on that email. What I went back and looked at, when I went back and looked at our policy, it was pretty clear that this would be a situation that could potentially apply in a lot of different circumstances, where you could have a point of diversion in one county for whatever type of project. And by the way, this policy, as far as I can tell, doesn't necessarily address change applications as well. But in any event, you could have a situation where you have a point of diversion in a county in a basin that is shared with an adjacent county, and the policy would not, I guess, allow CNRWA to file a protest, assuming that the county member, CNRWA member county wanted to file a protest, would not allow CNRWA to file a protest, because the point of diversion, manner of use, and method of use, or manner of use, excuse me, point of diversion and place of use are not in the member county, it's in an adjacent county, but the impacts could be to the adjacent county. So I think that's probably one of the one area that we probably want to have a conversation about. And the other thing that came up, let's see, over separate change applications. Separate, and I think as we're seeing now, that the state engineer has authority to combine basins to manage surface water and groundwater conjunctively. I think the implications are that this could have impacts on counties where the point of diversion and or place of use are not in that county. And so I think that's pretty much it. The other thing I wanted to highlight in this resolution is on page 3, the very top of page 3, where it talks about, actually it starts on the bottom of page 2, where it talks about actions proposed in the application conflict with present or future health, welfare, economic viability, and environmental well-being of the member county or counties in which the contemplated place of use or point of diversion situated. So that's really the key provision. And then it goes on to read, evidence of conflict shall be a county water resource plan, master plan, ordinance, resolution, similar statement of intent. And I just wanted to point out that provision because, again, that's why this board has always encouraged and has been a strong proponent and advocate for county water resource plans, for that this being another reason why having a county water resource plan is important as well. So anyway, at a minimum, this resolution, should be updated to reflect now 10-member counties and better formatted, that kind of thing. But I wanted to, again, focus on that key provision that does not address a situation where you have a point of diversion and or place of use in one county, but the impacts could be to an adjacent county. And whether or not the board wants to address that and/or other provisions within this
I
resolution.
think we have to address it. I'll open the floor for discussion on this item. Or a motion.
Chair, it's Strickland.
Mhm.
I know that we're going to potentially discuss this in item 10, but we have two-member counties. We have a Nye County and Mineral County, our sister county, has, as you know, received paperwork and have not been given enough time to reply to waters being moved across county lines and across basins. I'm concerned because RCI's letter came out on July 6th about this action, and we only got it out to staff on July 15th, and we're supposed to reply by July 18th. I'm concerned that I would have asked you if I could. So I did ask you to look at it. You guys did. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Joni. But I would have asked you to protest this, along with the county protesting this, or at least us two counties talking to each other about this. And so this makes us combative, if you will. I don't know how else to say this. I'm being very open with my thought process, if I may, with this board. But I've never seen this happen before, where it moved from basin to basin, and our conjectivity is creating that. And so I would love some more input on this subject, because I'm concerned it's 1,200 acre feet that's being moved across basins and across county lines.
Commissioner Strickland, did your water district governing board have anything to say about this?
You know, this is where I'm thinking that we need some help. See, that's not enough time to react.
Yes.
When
3
when
days?
You have,
Yeah.
yeah, well, even at on the 6th, I can't meet with this board unless we call an emergency action. I can't get a board meeting for anything, the commissioners, the Nye County Water District Governing Board. So do we help ourselves here by potentially doing a BDR that says we need longer timelines when you're talking about county business? I would just like some more thoughts on that.
Commissioner Strickland, I looked into those applications that you referenced, and we'll talk about those in more detail when we get to the state engineer monthly reports. A couple of things.
Should we open that? No, never mind. Go ahead. Sorry.
First of all, for a board like this that meets quarterly, we often run into situations where we find out about applications after we have just met or in not enough time to consider filing a protest. And two things about, well, a couple of other things. One, the only way that CNRWA would, one of the conditions for CNRWA protesting an application is if the county in which I guess the pointed version is proposed, or if it's amended to include a county in which there's a concern about an application in an adjacent county in a basin, shared basin, we would have to have that member county protest, and we could join the protest if all the other conditions are met. The other thing is that we often come across applications listed on the state engineer's monthly report, but there's no information about the application. So I actually sent an email to the state engineer last week to ask about that, and the response was, well, we don't typically upload the application itself until 3 weeks after it's listed on the monthly, until 3 weeks after we receive it. Yet it's still listed on the monthly report, and I didn't like that answer, but that was the answer. And their rationale was, well, you know, once we get the application, if we upload it, you know, and it has to be amended, then we've got to, you know, upload it again, that kind of thing, and it's additional staff time and all of that, and I guess I understand that, but nonetheless, that's the process that's used over there. And then thirdly, one of the options, I guess, or one of the things you might want to consider here is to amend this resolution to authorize the executive director or executive director in consultation with the chair and vice chair to protest an application in the interim, then to be brought to the next board meeting for either affirmation or not, and if the board at that meeting didn't affirm the protest, then the protest can be withdrawn, and this
May I add one thing to that? I agree with that, but I would also add that also in consultation with the county or counties that are affected,
Yeah.
and contact the representative or representatives of this board.
Great point, yeah,
Yeah.
that's absolutely right. So that is an option, and honestly, the protest itself, I know that this contemplates cost and effort. I mean, filing a protest takes some time, depending on the complexity of the application, whether it be a change application or an appropriation, an application for a new appropriation of water. You know, depending upon the complexity, it could take, you know, half an hour to, you know, a few hours or even longer. But it's, you know, it's a two-page form with, you know, attachments and that kind of thing, and it's $30 to file the application, and I live in Carson City, and I walk them down to the state engineer's office. And they can easily be withdrawn by letter.
Commissioner Strickland, did anybody from Nye County government protest these, or did anybody in Nye County protest this, yours? Did you do it
No,
as
I
an-
was still in the discovery process.
Oh, okay.
I received this on the 15th, right? Just as all our staff did, and we had to respond by the 18th. And I've lost my superintendent, Darren Tuck is retired. And so I got a hold of Travis Smith, who is his replacement, and he's just not up on water rights,
Just fell through the cracks.
Yeah.
which is disappointing. So that was a failure. And the 18th was a Saturday. What the heck?
Commissioner
So
Strickland.
we don't work Thursday or Fridays, right? And so
Yeah.
I found this on Wednesday. I had one day to react. And so I didn't get a return from my staff until the 21st. And so I think the timeline is very restrictive, and so sorry to interrupt, Jeff. I just want to make that timeline very apparent to everyone.
Yeah, so the statute requires, once an application is received, for it to go through a public noticing process for a month. It used to be that the division was required to have it published in a newspaper of general circulation for 4 consecutive weeks. That's changed because local newspapers haven't really been able to do that in the past several years. I think in 2025 or 2023, the division submitted a bill draft request to amend that. It still is a 4-week public notice process, but it doesn't necessarily have to be published for 4 consecutive weeks, but it does have to be put on the website and all of that. And then there's a 4-week.
I'm thankful you watch, but I
Yeah.
don't have anybody watching.
Well, that's exactly the point here, and that is why sometimes we get into a situation where I may find something, and then this one just quite frankly fell through the cracks, and this actually, I think, was on the monthly report for our last CNRWA board meeting, but no information, there was no application, and so.
Yeah.
One of those things, and then there's a month period. So there's, from the time it's first noticed, publicly noticed, to the time you have to protest or anyone has to protest, it's 8 weeks, and things can happen. So that's why, you know, there may be some merit in authorizing the executive director in consultation with the
Yeah.
the chair, vice chair, and the member
I
county.
would love to see something like that added to this, and that's why I brought it
Okay.
up at this time. Is there, we need to at least, like you say, because we can then have a meeting, and I could say, Jeff, I would prefer, Chair, that we withdraw that protest after speaking with my staff and having some time with this. But if we could immediately be prepared, if you had the tools that you could react as representing this board, seems to make a lot of sense.
And Commissioner Boland, I see you have your hand raised.
Yes, I do.
Hello.
I agree with everything Deborah said, and there should be some changes to, especially to interbasin transfer applications. They should have to notice the county right away formally, and not just to do the public thing. And I wholeheartedly agree with changing our resolution to allow Jeff to act. And just for future reference, Deborah, I would check your water resources plan in Nye County, because I know the one in Esmeralda County said that we will protest any interbasin transfers. If you had that, you could have immediately acted probably on your own without your fellow commissioners and got the ball rolling. So
I
that's all.
like that.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Nancy.
And Commissioner Strickland, I don't think it's out of line at all for you to contact Gregory Hafen and let him know about this.
Mm-hmm. And see if we can get some talks going. I don't want to
Yeah.
economically cripple my sister
He's an
county.
assemblyman.
But and so I'm just curious, what's going on here?
So,
So I
Commissioner.
appreciate all this discussion. Thank you.
Yeah, and again, we can talk about this a little bit more detail when we talk about the
Offline.
monthly reports, but
Okay.
even though Nye County and CNRWA missed the deadline to file a protest on the application, there are still some requirements as it relates specifically to interbasin transfers, and that's why you got that letter.
Right.
And so you still have an opportunity to provide comment to the state engineer with regard to the inventory that is required, which is part of the application that Pilot Minerals or Metals submitted. So there's two statutes, and I'll get into the specifics of those later, but you can and should, I would say, respond to that letter in terms of contacting the state engineer about the county's concerns with the interbasin transfer component of this application. So, anyway.
Thank you.
This is Chris Wagenseller. So there's supposed to be a public meeting in Tonopah. Joni, is that correct? You aware of that?
I'm not aware of that at all.
Yeah, because it was in the newspaper. I saw it in the public notices, because I check those every week.
Was it in yesterday's
It was
paper?
Yeah, and it's supposed to be, I don't remember the exact date, but it was in the Tonopah paper, and it was saying 2,500 acre foot instead of the 1,200
Oh.
acre foot.
And there's a
Well,
public
then-
hearing?
Yes.
Oh, okay, I'll have to check my paper.
Please.
And again, we'll talk about the details, but the BLM did file a pretty lengthy protest on that application. So. What do you want to do with this thing here?
All right, I will entertain a motion to amend Resolution 0601 to include allowing the executive director to protest any filing after consultation with the chair, the vice chair, and the affected county, a representative who is on this board from the affected county. Is there anything else, Jeff?
Yeah. Do you want to amend that provision under 2A on the bottom of page 2 that says it doesn't have to be well-being of the member county in which the contemplated place of use or point of
Ye-
use directly
Yes.
situated. So we amend that to
Yes.
allow it to be an adjacent county, perhaps that has a
Yes,
shared basin.
that's right, I
Okay.
forgot Deborah's, yeah,
Okay.
yes. Did everyone get that?
I have a little bit of a problem with using the term adjacent county. Another county is fine.
Yeah, another county.
But adjacent would Somebody
that
could
they're right next door.
say that they're contiguous. Sure. They may not,
Yeah.
may not necessarily be.
Madam Chair, this is Nancy. Could we just remove the references to the geographic region totally down there and just leave it to, if we have concern over the health, welfare, blah, blah, blah? Would that work?
Are you talking about in 2A, removing?
Yeah, Jeff, how it goes on, because it tells you what your, the causes might be, but I don't know as we need to have in there, like the point of diversion and place of use and all that. Could we just get rid of that? And
Well, why don't we just get rid of, in which the contemplated place of use or point of diversion is situated?
I think that's what she's
Oh,
saying.
okay.
That-
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's what
yep,
she's saying.
I agree.
Yeah.
That's a good suggestion for a good amendment.
All right.
Chair, can I request that Jeff restates and we affirm?
That's what I was just going to say. How about if we restate this motion? It's a motion to amend Resolution 0601 to include allowing the executive director to protest any filing after consulting with the chair, the vice chair, and a member of this board from the affected county or counties.
Shouldn't it be all members,
All members?
all directors from the affected county?
The only reason I worry about that is because that would create an open meeting law violation for them individually, because they're appointed by their counties. And we aren't we a quasi-governmental?
Well, we are, but just because there are 3 board members from a county doesn't, I don't think the 3 members are necessarily a public body, subject to the.
Okay, then let's include all 3 if it's a
how-
problem,
However members they have, yeah.
yeah.
I'll-
disclose one.
Well, I'll verify that, but I don't think if you have 3 representatives from County A, member county of CNRWA, and you contact them and they decide that amongst them that, yeah, you should move forward with a protest or not, that's necessarily a violation of the open meeting law. But if it is, then we can limit it to 1.
Yes.
If I may state, it's Deborah again.
Yeah.
There are members that, if I may say, that aren't all that active.
Yeah,
and
they're
so if
missing in
you-
action, and we're gonna,
Right.
we're gonna address that.
Okay, so if you have an active member that sees a problem and they're a representative of that county, and the chair agrees that this thing needs to take action, I really think it should only have to be 1 member of the county.
And-
Thank you.
Yeah, and Commissioner Strickland, that was my intent.
Should that 1 member be a county commissioner?
Let's have this discussion. Should that member be a county commissioner?
No,
Okay,
No,
yeah, I'm seeing shaking heads here.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, that's fine.
I have a concept. Could it be the district attorney?
We'll never get an answer.
I don't think, yeah. We'll wait forever getting, yeah.
I mean, again, protest is not irrevocable. It's just a
Sorry, no
placeholder,
offense.
gets you standing, and if in a situation where CNRWA would file a protest in consultation with the chair, the vice chair, and, of CNRWA and the member county representative, and the county decided that they didn't want to protest it, then CNRWA could withdraw the protest, or withdraw the protest.
Yeah, okay. Jeff, would you like to restate all of this?
Okay, I think the motion is to amend Resolution 0601 to authorize the executive director in consultation with the chair, vice chair, and a representative from the member county, a member
Or
county.
counties.
Or counties, to protest an application and to bring that protest to the next CNRWA board meeting for
Ratification.
ratification. And then the second
Is Deborah's
is
about the interbasin transfers?
no, I think that's Nancy's.
No, wasn't Deborah? Yeah, Deborah didn't, what was what you wanted to see included?
Well, Nancy did bring up that I should have another way of doing this, but the only thing I was thinking is maybe a BDR for
Oh,
'cause
so that doesn't affect this resolution,
This,
though?
it doesn't affect the
Okay.
resolution. I'm thinking in a different direction
Okay.
with interbasin. I so move as read by
Well, we're
Jeff.
not finished
we?
restating.
Really?
We're not finished
Oh, no.
restating yet, yeah. Yeah, because I think we've got that.
And the second amendment would be to provision 2A under, provision 2A, to eliminate
In which the
in which the
contemplated.
contemplated place of
yeah.
use or point of diversion is situated as a determination.
That was Nancy's.
That's Nancy's, yeah.
Okay, so, so moved. So,
Okay,
Just
motion
pretend
by
I said those
Commissioner
words.
Strickland. Is there a second? Second by Commissioner Hudson. Are there any questions concerning the motion? Is it clear in everybody's mind? Is there any additional discussion of this item? Is there any opposition to the motion to amend and adopt? With no opposition, that motion passes. Thank you. Was that painful or just uncomfortable?
Just a little rusty, that's all. The question is, that I have is, does Jeff want to go back and recontemplate his salary package?
No, I think Sam Merlino is going to be the one who's going to want to have her salary reevaluated because she has to transcribe the minutes. Item 8 is a report from the CNRWA Legislative Working Group and an update on interim legislative committees and activities. Jeff, do you and Norm want to tag team on this?
I'm definitely going to let Jeff take this. I just kind of run the meeting. And in fact, one of them, I was under the influence of fentanyl from a medical procedure I'd had earlier in the day, so I
Did you say
wasn't much help.
fentanyl?
Yes.
Okay, Jeff.
Oh, okay.
Everybody's looking at you.
I think they were wondering about Norm.
Oh.
That's been an ongoing thing.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First of all, I'd like to thank Member Frey for chairing the meeting and running the meetings. He's been doing this for CNRWA for at least as long as I've been with the organization, and that's 8 years. And as again, the working group is really super important, particularly now ramping up for the 2027 legislative session. Things are actually more dynamic lately in terms of the interim period between legislative sessions. And then, of course, when we get into 2027 and the legislature convenes, then we'll probably need to meet more frequently. But at least for now, it seems like once every couple months is probably appropriate. And so during this interim period between legislative sessions, there are joint interim standing committees that meet to hear presentations and discuss various topics, and they typically conclude their hearings at the end of this past fiscal year, so June 30th, at which time they do a solicitation for recommendations, for bill draft requests, for letters of intent, for resolutions, those kinds of things. There are two committees that I've been representing CNRWA as well as HRBWA on. One is, the Public Lands Committee. I was asked to do a presentation back in late April to the Public Lands Committee in Winnemucca, just a quick overview on, I wouldn't say quick, but an overview of CNRWA activities and HRBWA activities. I don't know that I provided substantive recommendations at that time, and the Public Lands Committee used to be the only committee, shouldn't say the only committee, but one of the few committees that actually met during the interim and handled all of the water issues. And this time around, they only have 4 bill draft requests, and it appears that they're going to be more focused on other natural resource and public lands issues, but they were definitely interested in hearing about CNRWA and HRBWA. On the other hand, the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources has really focused on water and other natural resource issues, but really focused on water, and has heard presentations, including one that I gave to the group, I want to say June 27th, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute, on a whole bunch of water issues that are combined into what we're calling the omnibus bill. And this omnibus bill that was sort of presented in concept, which I presented in concept on behalf of what we're calling the Nevada Water Law Stakeholder Group. It's been referred to as a number of different titles, but nonetheless, this is a group of various stakeholders representing environmental, agricultural, municipal, mining, rural interests, and we have been meeting pretty regularly since the beginning of the year to talk about potential legislation for the 2027 legislative session. This is the same group, mostly the same group that met in the previous interim between 2023 and 2025, that developed Assembly Bill 104, which was referred to as the Omnibus Water Bill back then, which was really focused on authorizing a permanent voluntary water rights retirement program. There were some other provisions in that bill relating to water conservation measures in Southern Nevada, some NDEP administrative items, and maybe a few other things. This time around, we got off, I wouldn't say to a slow start, but to one where we really wanted to make sure, after having gone through this process in the interim between 2023 and 2025, that we sort of figured out how we could put together changes or proposals that wouldn't say would be more smooth, but we learned a lot from, I think, that previous omnibus bill. And so, one, we wanted to make sure that we had broad consensus. It's not to say that everybody on this group or in this group agreed with everything that we did or are doing, but at least conceptually agreed with what we're trying to accomplish, what the goals are. And two, and probably most importantly, that we're not asking for any money, at least at this point, and I don't intend that we will going forward, and that we don't create a fiscal note for any state agency that would basically put this bill into a situation where it would have to go from a policy committee then to a money committee, where that's just a process where things get bogged down and can eventually maybe never be voted on in the money committee, and just as an extra step that's very difficult sometimes to overcome. So those are the two sort of parameters. We had a lot of participation, a lot of discussion. There are things that we did not include in here, and things that when we first started having the discussions we didn't think we were going to include. What's in your board packet is really, I think this was the, what did I include in here just to be sure? Okay. In the board packet. I think what's in the board packet here, because I added a couple things. Yeah, so this would be what was submitted to the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources. The Southern Nevada Water Authority, who has been involved in this stakeholder working group and the previous one, agreed to sort of do the record keeping and processing of our recommendation, which they did. We appreciate them doing that, and this is what was submitted in response to the solicitation for recommendations. I'll go through those in just a minute, but it was followed up with a more formal thing where there was like a form that had to be filled out that was also done. And now we're at the point where we're getting ready, I think either today or first thing Monday, I think it's probably going to be today, where actual draft language is going to be submitted. So we start getting into the details. And then what'll happen is the chair of this committee, Chair Nath Anderson, representing the Sparks area, who chairs the Assembly Natural Resources Committee, will review this with LCB staff, with LCB legal, and she will decide which, if any, of these recommendations, along with all the other recommendations that the committee has received, which ones will go on what's called a work session document, or in that document for action by the Joint Interim Committee at their, I think it's August 12th, work session meeting. And then between whenever this is submitted today and that time period, there may be some other questions and involvement. And so that's where we are. And I want to go over real quickly this document that you have in your board packet, and then get into more specifically 3 of the recommendations that I asked for on behalf of Central Nevada Regional Authority and the Humboldt River Basin Water Authority. Those are the last 3, but let's go through this list real quickly. I would also mention that we're aware of at least one other working group out there that was convened by the governor's office probably a year ago. There's a little crossover between that group and our working group. I think Doug Busselman with the Farm Bureau is on both, and I want to say Alan Biaggi, who's working on behalf of the mining industry as well. And that working group is really focused more on the process efficiencies and things of that nature at the state engineer's office. We don't know if they're going to be recommending any BDRs or not. And then there's also the Division of Water Resources and Department of Conservation Natural Resources state agency that may or may not be submitting any bill draft requests, and we won't know that for a while, as well as what their budget request will be. Those are things that have to go through the governor's office and put in the governor's budget and all of that. So, starting with, this is the omnibus bill. Starting with state land fees, this is an issue that Southern Nevada Water Authority requested because apparently State Lands is charging a lease fee for one of their pipeline projects, and the statute doesn't, the statute is a may charge a fee, as I understand it, but they are charging a fee, and they're saying, no, they don't have any leeway, they have to charge this fee. And I know Southern Nevada Water Authority is trying to work with Division of State Lands to get this straightened out, but this is a placeholder that may get worked out administratively, but it hasn't as of today, I guess. And so this would be a deal or an issue that would be addressed in this omnibus bill. Doesn't directly affect, I don't think, really any of the member counties here that I can think of. The next item has to do with the capital improvements to publicly owned water systems. So this concept is to clarify that the funding, required funding match on awards made through this program, it used to be called the AB 198 grant program for small public water systems, to provide grants to the small public water systems to make improvements to meet Federal Safe Drinking Water Act standards and other sort of public health and
It
safety.
funded a lot of projects.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. And since that time, there have been additional projects outside of the public water system, outside of public water systems that have become eligible through legislative action, including primarily irrigation efficiency type projects, and then more recently, because of the authorization of the Voluntary Water Rights Retirement Program, acquiring water rights. However, except for grants for public water system improvements, the other projects that are eligible do not require a match. So this would require a match, and clearly define that match for all the other types of projects that are eligible for funding under that program. The third one is actually increasing the amount of bond authorization for that public water system grant program from its current level of $125 million to $200 million. And that is because, again, for the voluntary water rights retirement program that is now eligible under this program, we recognize, I think all of us, that we didn't want to compromise the ability of the small rural public water systems to get grants for their water systems. That's a public health and safety issue. Water rights retirement is important, but this is an existing funding source. It's water related, and so we thought by increasing the bond authorization cap, then it would free up maybe some additional funding for water rights retirement. This is an authorization request only. It doesn't mean that the state will in fact include this. It's up in the air as to whether or not this would trigger fiscal note, and we'd have to work through that if it does. But again, it's an authorization only. Number 4 is something that came up. Actually, Jake Tibbetts brought this up, and this has to do with really, I guess, an unintended consequence of the Voluntary Water Rights Retirement Program that CNRWA and HRVWA and I guess others who have retired water rights had, which is once agricultural land is no longer an agricultural use, it doesn't receive that tax exemption, property tax exemption. And we wanted to make sure that for those agricultural lands that are no longer in agricultural use because their water rights were retired under this program should continue to receive that deferred tax exemption as long as their land isn't developed for a higher use, as long as it remains fallow or is not, again, is not rezoned or reused for a higher use. The consequences, by the way, of not keeping your land in agricultural use or zone that way, I guess, is you can get back taxes collected plus like a 20% penalty. So we've got the language. It's pretty easy fix. And this is something that was,
Which means it won't be retained.
well, there's a precedent for this, I think, in that last session, the legislature approved a similar type of continuation of the agricultural land tax exemption for agricultural lands that are now have solar on them, for example. So we're hoping that this doesn't become an issue for, I mean, it doesn't have a state fiscal node, and as far as the counties are concerned, it's always been zoned that way, and just because their water rights have been retired and they can't irrigate, we feel that it should stay that way, so. Item number 5 is vested water rights filing deadline, and that is a holdover from discussions in a bill that was introduced, was recommended or requested by the Division of Water Resources to basically deal with the issue of the deadline of December 31st, 2027 for filing claims of vested water rights. However, the federal government won't do that. There's precedent for them not having to do that or not doing it in other states, and they've successfully succeeded in not having to do that in, for example, the state of Oregon. So, however, it raised a number of issues with regard to fairness to those water right holders that are not the federal government, having to follow one rule with the federal government being exempt from that rule. We had lots of discussions about all of this. We, and I have to see how it finally came out and what we submitted. I would say that of all of the things that we talked about, this is the one that has maybe not 100% concurrence, but it's a placeholder for further discussion. And let me pull that up real quick because I have it here, how that language ended up. Sorry. So what we came up with, and again, this is not, I would say 100% consensus at this point. So the language that we're proposing is to add language that reads, on or before December 31st, 2027, the state engineer may, in his or her discretion for cause shown, extend the time in which a proof may be filed. And then nothing in this section shall affect any proofs of claims from the federal government. So basically, it gives the state, it would give the state engineer the authority to, again, extend the time, which state engineer would, could do for the federal government and others that have extenuating circumstances. So that's where that one is. The last three are the ones I want to talk about a little bit more detail. First one is number 7, and that is 3M plans, monitoring, management, mitigation plans. We're seeing more and more of those, particularly for large mining projects and other industrial projects. And I know that Eureka County was very involved in getting the original language in statute to at least give the counties a seat at the table when 3M plans are being developed as a condition of approving an application for an appropriation of new water. But I felt like there's some changes that needed to be made there. We originally talked about having some discussion about really getting into the details of 3M plans and things of that nature, but that's a discussion for another day, and it's going to take a lot longer, and we may or may not ever get a consensus on what a 3M plan should really say or include, kind of thing. But nonetheless, we believe that the counties do have a right to participate in a 3M plan, and that ultimately 3M plans as part of an application or condition of approving an application for water, you know, should be subject to all the other rules and same rules as and judicial review as other provisions of NRS 533 and 534. So what we included here is 3 things. One is to make sure that a 3M plan could be required for a change application in addition to an application for a new appropriation, which everybody I think is in agreement with. And number 2, the way it reads now, if a county wanted to file a 3M plan, they would have to follow the process, and then they'd have to notify the county or the state engineer that they want to participate. The state engineer, they'd have to notify the state engineer that they would that they'd want to participate in a 3M plan. And then they'd have 30 days to do that. This simply just makes it a condition where the state engineer shall allow a county to participate, and not put it on the county to have to follow this process. And there is some language in here that I know raised some concern about whether, in a case, well, it would be specifically related to Clark County, Washoe County, where they have regional water authorities. So in those two counties, those two regional water authorities could actually participate in the development of 3M plan as opposed to their county governments. And then lastly, the piece about whether or not a 3M plan or the comments submitted by a county are subject to judicial review. That seems to be in conflict with what case law would say about that, and so we try to work on some language that didn't delete that particular provision, but made it clear that any comments provided by a county or water authority, in the case of Clark and Washoe County, Southern Nevada Water Authority, and Truckee Meadows Water Authority, would be considered as part of the court record. So that's the 3M plan. The last two are bill draft requests or bills that CNRWA has submitted now for the last 3 sessions. Couldn't seem to get anywhere. And we came very close on a couple of them, but quite frankly ran out of time in the legislative process. We finally did, I think, come to consensus and have had lots of conversations with the Division of Water Resources about Section 8, which is the basin assessments. Currently, the state engineer has the authority and sole discretion to establish a basin assessment in a designated basin and to set the assessment at whatever level is determined, that the state engineer determines is needed to do the work in that basin. Also, and probably more, I guess, what really brought this to light is that in the 2023 and 2025 legislative sessions, those basin assessments were included in the Division of Water Resources budget to supplant general fund dollars. And we argued that that was an inappropriate use of those basin funds. That's the second piece. And then the third piece is I've had lots of county commissioners and other folks tell me they don't know how the money's being used, how the basin assessments are set, the levels that are set, those kinds of things. There's just not a lot of transparency. And when I got into the details, it took me a long time to understand how all this stuff works. But in any event, we wanted to make sure that there was more transparency about all of that. So this proposed language addresses all three. It sets
Jeff, I'm curious about something. I'm sorry to interrupt. If it can't be addressed legislatively, can it be addressed through legal processes?
Well, to answer your question, I mean, yes, it can be, yes, it can. And I would say at least the piece about whether or not those funds could be used for
To supplant
for
or
purposes
replace.
other than for what it was intended to be
Yes.
used. It's not black and white, but there's certainly
Yeah.
nuances. You'd have to get into the details of that. And then the piece that I think is really one that needed to be addressed is having one state official be able to establish a fee without any sort
Yeah.
of
Oversight.
or even a
Right.
hearing about that or,
Yeah.
anything like that. So that's what this addresses. I'm sorry, I'm on 9 now. I shouldn't say I'm on 10. So I'm on, so what we did put in here is, this is language that we had worked with the Division of Water Resources and Department on. 2025, we just ran out of time, but basically it sets the maximum charge at not more than 20 cents per acre foot. Requires, but then there's also a provision that would allow the state engineer to increase it beyond that. If the state engineer holds a public hearing, it would have to be for very specific purposes and an explanation of what that fee surplus would be or whatever exceeding that cap would be. And then it provides some guidance on or some requirements on how the money must be used. And then lastly, it requires the division to post all of this budget information on the website.
What was always irritating, really irritating to me when I was a county commissioner was that these basin assessments would appear on an agenda, and we don't have any choice. We have to approve them. And that was irritating. Why even put it on the agenda if we don't have any choice?
Yeah, right, so I'm glad you brought that up, because that is the issue for
Yes.
the county commissioners, and that is, you would get the notice, it would be put on the tax rolls, you would be the body
Yeah.
that would pass that, enact that, and then the questions come, and you don't have the answers.
Yes, right.
And so, anyway, this is, I think, would be a big step forward. I think it would create a lot more,
Yeah, taxation without representation.
yeah, it's an assessment. It used to be called a tax, but it's now an assessment, so. So I skipped over that. The last recommendation in this omnibus bill is one that I initially asked for, didn't get a lot of support for, and then towards the very end, got some,
A little bit of traction.
little bit of traction, and I want to recognize Chris Mahan and Laurel Saito for working with me to come up with some language that was enough, I think, to get it into this. It still may, and by the way, any of these recommendations, I think our working group has already agreed would, if it's gonna create a problem and it would sink, the rest of the bill is gonna get removed or amended substantially. So in any event, I want to go to the last one, which is, I skipped over it, is the groundwater boards. As you members who've been on this board for some time recognize that we try to get the groundwater board bill statute changed. And a couple things occurred to me. One, that statute that we were trying to amend is so old and so arcane that it wasn't even worth amending, because it's just, it applied to the Las Vegas Valley groundwater basin back in the 1970s. It's just not workable for the current situation. So instead of trying to amend it, we decided we would do just repeal that provision and do a new language. We're not exactly sure where that language would end up, whether it's in NRS 534 or what could end up in the county statutes or some other place. But in any event, it would authorize a board of county commissioners to create a groundwater board. What's up here? Or, yeah. Get to the new language here. Okay. And this would be for areas that have been designated, basins designated by the state engineer. And that Board of County Commissioners, and again, this is enabling to create the board. It's also enabling, but would require a 2/3 vote of the Board of County Commissioners to establish and collect a fee. And the fee, at least for just discussion purposes in this recommendation, would be $30 per acre foot of permitted groundwater for users of groundwater other than domestic wells, and a flat fee of $30 for owners of domestic wells, and these are annual fees, could be adjusted by consumer price index, so forth and so on. And the fee could be used for any one of a number of purposes, and by the way, these groundwater boards would be advisory to the Board of County Commissioners. They have no independent authority except through the Board of County Commissioners. And it could be used to provide public education, on conservation, could be used to do an inventory of wells in the designated basin. It could be used to do evaluations of aquifer storage and recovery projects. Could be used for abandoning and plugging wells, retiring water rights, mitigating conflicts with surface water. This is important for example in the Humboldt Basin, where that is an issue now that is being addressed, and this is one of the recommendations, or at least ideas about how to address some of the issues there. And other duties as, or things that the Board of County Commissioners would want them to do. Let me go back, I think I skipped something here. The other thing that this bill does is basically require a county, then a county that wants to seek funding from, remember, the Water Rights Retirement Program, and the eligibility for water rights retirement to be funded under the State Water Board financing for public water system projects. If a county wanted to get money to retire water rights, any county from that funding source, it would have to provide a match. Again, that's part of that other recommendation. And this is one way they could do that, is through raising fees to do it, to provide that 10% match, whatever it is, through this program as well. And what Chris and I think a few others were concerned about or wanted to see happen with this language was that this shouldn't be confined to one basin in one county. Because we know that probably half of the basins in this state are in multiple counties. And so you don't want to have one county create a groundwater board for their part of the basin and not be able to really.
When they don't have control over
They don't
the.
have control of the
yeah.
other half of the basin.
It's like Pahrump and Clark County. They share that basin.
Right. So this allows for that. It also allows for designated basins to be combined. And that's important because you might have a situation, again, like in the Humboldt, where you've got basins that are designated that can be combined to create a groundwater district and use this kind of mechanism by one county or multiple counties to generate revenue to do projects in that district, which would help water right holders or groundwater pumpers in those basins. And so the language is expanded to include multiple basins, multiple counties, to create a groundwater district that would include multiple basins by multiple counties. And more importantly, and I think the reason that we were able to get some recognition of this from the Division of Water Resources is the only tie to the Division of Water Resources that the state engineer can provide feedback on the board. So the state engineer, the Division of Water Resources state, they have no say in whether or not these groundwater districts or boards are created, which is a change from the current law. 2, who's on the board. 3, what you can do as far as raising revenue. And 4, what you can do with the money. So this is, I think, an important tool. Again, it's enabling. I know that counties, the last thing counties want is another thing to do. Trust me, after 10 years at NACO, I know all about unfunded mandates. That is not
I was
what
going to
this is.
say, we don't mind one more thing to do. What we don't like is unfunded mandates.
So that's it, right. This is not an unfunded mandate. It's an enabling legislation for counties that want to be able to take on some of these issues locally, working with groundwater right holders or, you know, in your county in a basin that needs some help. This is a tool.
Right.
And I think that's pretty much it on this. I guess at this point, I don't know that we need a motion, but I mean, I
No,
guess.
it's not agendized.
No, but
Oh,
I-
it is.
It-
No,
it-
it's just agendized as a report.
Okay. Here's what I would say going forward. This language, like I said, is about to be submitted today or first thing Monday. It's moving along a process. It's got to go through the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Natural Resources to approve, to forward for all of these items in this omnibus bill. and then it goes to the LCB legal folks to draft up the actual bill. There'll be discussions, there'll be lots of things happening, and then the bill will get dropped, and then we'll see the language, and then
We'll see if we recognize
we
it.
see if we recognize it and we still agree with it, and what others say about it, because
Yeah.
our group is not universal.
Right.
And so I just want to make sure that, and again, this is where the working group,
Yeah.
our legislative working group helped guide me in terms of, is this really okay?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, that kind of thing, without giving me a specific direction, but getting some sense of whether or not these would be ideas and concepts that would be acceptable to CNRWA.
Does anyone have any questions for Jeff? Yes.
I have two questions, Jeff.
Sure.
So first, just to clarify on the groundwater board, is that assessment fee is in addition to the state basin assessment fee?
That's correct.
Okay, and then on the ag taxes, if a rancher leased water, long-term lease to a mine, like 10, 20, 30 years, what happens to their agricultural taxes? Do they lose that exemption?
You know, that's a great question.
that is a
I do
great
not know the
question.
answer to that.
Because that water, if it's leased, that water would come back. But
I don't know if they do. My gut tells me that they would lose that exemption for the time that it's not being used for agriculture, but there's some other specific things about how much acreage needs to be irrigated or farmed and irrigated and that kind of thing. So if it's a great question, I'll ask.
Okay, thank you.
Jeff, ma'am?
Hold on, we got,
Just a moment.
someone might be able to answer that question.
Are there, is there a board member who has anything to add or a question?
Yes, Madam Chair, Marty.
Marty, hi Marty. Okay, go ahead.
Hey there, I have a big concern with the not to exceed fee. To put that in context, each of my pivots have approximately 640 acre feet. So are we really talking about $19,000 per pivot?
Commissioner, that is a not-to-exceed fee. And if that is, and again, that would require a two-thirds vote of the county commissioners, assuming the county, Board of County Commissioners even created a groundwater board. Yes, I guess that's the math. Now, if that is an issue and you want to, again, we put that number in there based upon, I don't know, I think that's probably existing statute for groundwater boards today. We can certainly look at reducing that amount.
Okay, thank you. And then also we have the issue here of permitted right versus what we're allocated. So a lot of gray area there in my opinion, but going to be major kickback from the even to have it, I would say not to exceed 30 cents versus $30 in my opinion.
Okay. Duly noted.
Thanks, Marty. Anyone else on the board with a question? I'll open this for some public comment. Is there any member of the public?
Can I jump in? Sorry, Chair.
Oh, Deborah, Commissioner Strickland?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Yes,
go ahead.
please. So we currently don't tax water rights in any way. And I'm not sure why we'd want to start now. I don't understand this. I know that water boards need funding, and we've chosen here in Nye County to tax per parcel fee of $5. So I don't know. I'm not liking the sound of it. That's my 2 cents.
So is it a tax or an assessment?
Shayla, you're not on the record.
Is it a tax or an assessment?
So it's an assessment, and water rights are assessed / taxed currently by the state engineer through.
Yeah, but the county pays that, not the individual.
Well, the county doesn't know. The county can pay that. That was an amendment to the statute that allows a county to pay it if the cost of collecting that assessment is more than the assessment is
Yeah.
valued at. But in the
Well,
past.
that's currently
it-
what's going on here.
Yeah, and in other counties, that may not be the case, so the individual water right holders are, in fact, paying that assessment. As far as this is concerned, again, this isn't a requirement, this is up to a 2/3 vote of your Board of County Commissioners to even create a groundwater board, a vote of the county commissioners to create a groundwater board, and a 2/3 vote if you create a groundwater board to impose this assessment, and it's a not to exceed amount. So,
And why would you create a groundwater board if you already have a water authority in your town?
yeah, so, well, that's a great point. So in Nye County, the chair just
You
brought up a
wouldn't
good
do it.
point. Since you already have a groundwater, or a water district, who knows, but it seems to me like you've already got the mechanism in place. But not all counties have water districts, and I believe your water district was created by statute.
Yes.
This would enable,
Some enabling legislation.
yeah, this would enable other counties to do something similar, but not exactly a water district like you have.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you. Any other discussion on this item? We'll move to item number 9. Oh, I want to,
Chris has his hand up, and I also had a comment about the water,
Oh.
the tax abatements, if that's okay.
yes, that's fine. Go ahead, Laurel, and then we'll get to you, Chris.
So on the tax abatements, I just wanted to note that the way that it works, as far as I understand, at least in Eureka County, is that if the land continues to be used in agriculture, it continues to get the tax abatement. But if it no longer gets irrigated and gets converted to a higher use, then whoever owns the land at the time loses a tax abatement and becomes responsible for the previous 7 years of abatements, which can be substantial because, that's 7 years of tax abatement that come due. So, in regards to Chris's question about whether or not, if they're leasing the water to a mining company, that I don't know. I think that's something that you'd have to ask your county assessor. And also, I'm not 100% sure that all of this process is exactly the same in every county. I think that the counties themselves may have a little bit of leeway on how they enforce this.
Thank you, Laurel.
Yeah,
Chris?
Madam Chair, this is Chris Mahan, if I may briefly.
Yes.
Yeah, as Jeff mentioned, Laurel, Jeff, and myself have had a fair amount of discussion on the groundwater boards issue. And as Jeff mentions, it's an up to $30 per acre foot. And while most of the folks on this board may not be affected, but certainly in the Humboldt River Basin, the whole conjunctive management issue and conflict with junior groundwater rights affecting senior surface rights, the potential, if there's not local solutions, is curtailment. So while folks may not want to be taxed or pay a fee on water rights, the alternative, if you don't do something about it, you could lose it all. So I just wanted to make that point.
That's a great point, and thank you. Thanks very much.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands raised, so we'll close out that item. Jeff, unless you have anything you want to say. I just want to make a housekeeping comment, and it'll be for Sam when she reviews the tape. But let the record reflect that Cody Odgers with White Pine County is now with us. Yeah. And then I want to really briefly revisit item number 5, which was to amend Jeff's contract. I don't think we set an effective date for that. And I don't know if we need to reopen that item and include that as part of the motion, or should it just be understood that it's effective July 1st with the beginning of this fiscal year?
So, it's whatever the pleasure of the board. I mean,
Well, I want to know what, I'm not sure what the right thing to do
You
is
know,
legally.
honestly, since Elko County is our fiduciary,
Yeah.
and they're probably going to need some minutes or something to reflect that, so maybe it's better to have it in the minutes to reflect
Yes,
that.
so if someone would make a motion, please, to reconsider item number 5.
I will make a motion to reconsider item number 5.
Is there a second?
Second, for Strickland.
Thank you. Motion by Commissioner Frey, second by Commissioner Strickland to reconsider item number 5. Are there any questions concerning the motion? Any discussion? Is there any opposition to that motion? With no opposition, motion number 5 is passed, with no opposition, that motion passes and item 5 is reopened. And I would like to entertain a motion to make this effective July 1st.
I will make a motion to make Jeff's contract change on salary effective July 1st, 2026.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Norm Frey, second by Shayla Hudson. Questions concerning the motion? More discussion? Is there any opposition to the motion? With no opposition, that motion passes. Thank you for that. Thanks. Let's move to item 9, which is a discussion and possible action to initiate a RFQ from government affairs firms to represent this organization during the 2027 legislative session.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're actually starting a little bit early on this process, but I think it's important we do so. In the last, I think, almost every session since I've been with CNRWA, we've had someone there to help represent us. And when I say represent, I mean, I'm still very much involved. So when it comes to, you know, bills like the one I just presented, the omnibus bill with others, and major items of that nature, I, you know, will be very much involved. But it's the day-to-day activities, the sort of monitoring what else is going on, other issues that might come up that aren't necessarily directly related to CNRWA, or even if they are fairly straightforward, where someone could simply get up and either support or oppose, or, you know, make comments in the neutral position on those items. And also more administrative in terms of keeping track of all the bills, making appointments. So again, you know, it's my role to meet with legislators, go to caucus breakfasts, those kinds of things.
And you'll continue to
And I
do
will
that.
continue to do that, but this is like when I need to go in and meet with committee members. There are folks who are much better at it and probably are more successful at it than.
That's what we had Nina Laxalt
Yeah,
for every year, and
yeah,
as
exactly.
everyone knows, she unfortunately passed, so.
So that type of thing. So I'd like to move forward with that as well.
Jeff, I'm thinking maybe what we might want to do is to appoint a working group, is to move forward, if there's a motion, move forward to advertise, and then have a working group look at the applications and rank them and bring something back to this board for a decision.
That would be a good way to go. And I guess when you say advertise, I was thinking the
Shoulder taps.
Yeah, well, the representation, so if you follow this stuff and you went to the lobbyist page on the legislative website, you would find dozens, if not hundreds, of lobbyists in the state of Nevada. And they come in all shapes, colors, and sizes.
And varying degrees of experience.
And varying degrees of sizes, or of experience. My preference and strong recommendation would be that we look for an individual or a smaller government affairs firm of a few people with not a whole bunch of clients. And look, this is not a knock on the large firms, but for us, our needs, we don't need the lobbying part as much as we need sort of the, you know, the
Coordination.
coordination and monitoring part of it. I can think of, and I went through the roster the other day, and there's probably half a dozen, 8 to 10, that I think would fit that bill. So you know, if it's the pleasure of the board, I'd like to reach out to maybe 3 to 5 of those, and then have them submit
So Jeff, when you
responses.
say to initiate a request for qualifications from government affairs firms, you don't necessarily mean to advertise? that
No,
we're-
so this would be an I
Okay.
think this would be an informal
More
thing, where I'd
informal.
put together the RFI, like we did when we were seeking to have legal counsel, and then have a scoring sheet, and then maybe Member Frey and I can come up with a couple of other members of the legislative working group that would score those, and then forward them to the board for the next meeting.
Yeah, I'm pointing at Fred is a member of the committee, and, sorry, it's not a committee, it is a working group, and.
Do you want to just leave that to Member Frey and myself? to
That'd
come?
be fine. I
Okay.
have no problem with that. None.
So what we would do is try to have a recommendation back to the board for the next meeting, whenever that is, probably in October. Is that?
Yeah, that's fine. Is there a motion on this? Or do we just understand that we've given Jeff instruction? Yeah,
Go with the instruction.
all right. Jeff, let's move to item 10, which is a discussion and possible action regarding water rights applications. And let me just say, if I was on the state engineer's staff, the one application I would be scrutinizing is from the applicant Dewey, Cheatham, and Howe.
There's another one on the next page, too.
Yeah,
Hurry up, or-
and they're in Nye County.
hurry up, or-
Great.
Yeah, wasn't that a Three Stooges law firm?
I used to hire them.
Yeah. Go ahead, Jeff.
Sorry.
Oh,
Okay, so this spans the time period. These applications span the time period April through, as current as
July 8th.
July 8th. I think I even did a quick update earlier this week and didn't see anything, but I'll point out a couple. I mean, so the ones in the central region, which is the largest, 77 basins, are all highlighted. The ones that I guess we can start with the ones that were the subject of discussion a little bit earlier, and that is 95133 through 95137. From Pilot Metals, Inc., for water in Basin 135, which is I own.
6,000 feet.
Well, it's a total combined duty of 1,200
yeah.
acre feet. So, that basin, the Ione Basin, and this would be an interbasin transfer, because the water would be used in another basin in Nye County. Pull that up here. So the water would come from Ione Basin, be used in Monte Cristo Basin 136, and it's also an inter-county transfer from Mineral County to Nye County. As a condition of an interbasin transfer, if it's over 250 acre feet, is that the applicant has to do an inventory of the basin, of the water, the basin where the point of diversion is located. That's a pretty extensive study, so that's being undertaken. It is for mining and milling.
They're mining tungsten.
Tungsten, it's a strategic mineral. My understanding is that Pilot Metals has received a significant amount of funding from the federal government to, I don't know if it's a grant or a loan to move forward. This project, tungsten is considered a strategic mineral. It's a little unclear to me what's going on with NEPA. I believe that they've got a Fast 41 expedited NEPA process, but it hasn't been finished, and they still don't have all the permits and all the other things that are required from the BLM for this project. So the RFA date, and I'm not going to rehash what happened, but this one just didn't get protested for whatever reason. But there is still an opportunity for, again, the county, for Nye County, to respond to the letter notifying them of this interbasin transfer so that Nye County can do that. There's a statute that addresses that. I will pull that out here.
Commissioner Strickland, have you addressed this with the district attorney? Not that it requires legal action, but the extremely short turnaround time.
No, I discussed it with staff. I haven't even got to talk to our representative engineer to give him direction yet. I was waiting for this meeting.
Yeah, so what I understand right now is, now that you've received the letter, the statute is silent as to when the county actually needs to respond to that letter, except that it can't be any sooner than 3 weeks after the letter. But then the county can notice this as a public notice, and I'm trying to find the actual statute, but county would do a notice and then hold a public meeting after doing the public notice for comments, and then respond to that letter with any concerns. There'll also be another time. Gosh, I can't find my thing here. Is that what it is? Okay. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Okay, all right, we'll wait.
For
No-
the record,
well,
yeah,
no,
Chris,
that-
do you want to say that on the record, please?
So the statute says it's 3 consecutive weeks in the paper, and that's the one that I saw in the Tonopah paper 2 weeks ago. I didn't see yesterday's paper yet.
So who published that?
I believe it's our county published. I got the letter from.
Your county published it.
I think, I guess Deborah's saying Nye County doesn't know anything about it or didn't publish
Well,
it.
why would your county publish that?
So we got the letter and includes the statute says we need to post this. So I have a question about the 1,200 acre feet, those 5. I looked those
Can
up.
everybody hear Chris?
So I have a question about the 5 applications are 1,200 acre feet each, and each one of the applications says the total
I know.
combined duty is 1,200.
I know.
But
I don't get that.
the paper says 2,500 acre feet. The letter we got from Division of Water says it's 2,500 acre feet. I don't quite understand that.
Don't know either. But, so that's your county because it is a shared basin. So part of Ione is in Esmeralda County.
Ione's in Nye County
Well, then why would you get the letter?
because it's being transferred to.
Oh, to Monte Cristo.
Through-
Okay,
yes.
that's right.
Yeah, Monte Cristo's in Esmeralda.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
that's
just
right.
over the border. It's
That's
short.
right, that's right.
You know, it looks like in December of 2024, they purchased water rights from Belmont Resources, permit number 87850, 1,447.94 acre feet of water. No, that's production annually, and consumptive use of 130.055 acre feet.
So the notice
But they-
doesn't mention that permit. It
Yeah,
mentions
they-
those other ones.
I'm looking at a press release from December 11th, 2024. I just sent it to you, Jeff.
Well, in any event, Commissioner, the two statutes that you'll want to pay attention to and consult, I'm sure your DA is aware of this, is NRS 533-363, which is the state engineer's duty to notify the county, which I guess RCI did on their behalf. And again, you would have a meeting no sooner than 3 weeks after you receive that letter, and then you would have a board meeting, have that meeting, and then you can, so that would be the board meeting, and you can make recommendations to the state engineer about the need to consult with the county on the interbasin transfer. And then there's also NRS 533-368, again, that talks about the county's participation in the inventory, and that they will have to consult, or shall consult with the applicant governing body of the county or counties in which the point of diversion and place of use is located concerning the scope and progress of the study. Lastly, if you ever get to this point and it's ever approved, then there is a fee of $10 per acre foot of water transferred out of that basin that can be imposed by the county and some other things. So there is an opportunity for Nye County to participate in the interbasin transfer piece of this. I would say this about Ione Valley. I'm trying to find my, it is currently not over appropriated. So at least based on the summary of the basin, there is water available, although that's just based on that summary of the basin. That's not a detailed evaluation of what is available and what the inventory will find once it's completed, kind of thing. So, and it's not a very big basin as far as I can tell from the study, or from the summary on the state engineer's website. So those are the applications 95133 through 95137. The last thing I would mention is if you haven't read the BLM's protest, it's pretty significant. And one of the key things that they talk about, two things that stood out for me. One is even though there's water available, or at least there seems to be water available, the impacts of withdrawing that amount of water from the basin could be significant on springs, and they have a number of public water right reserves in that basin, and also outflow from that basin into an adjacent basin. I forget which one they reference, and potential impacts there. But also they note that the applicant is applying for water rights when they don't even have the permits from the BLM, which is unusual. Typically, we don't see applications go for water rights until after the NEPA process, particularly for mining applications. That's not done until, or at least they're very far along in the NEPA process. So anyway, if there aren't any other questions on that, for the folks in White Pine County, flagged a couple of applications, 95153 and 95154 in Steptoe Valley for duty of 101 acre feet in Cold Springs 1 and Cold Springs 2, submitted by Nicholas Marich. Don't know if anybody in White Pine County has any comments about that, but my understanding is Steptoe Valley Basin 179 is the designated basin. Let me see.
It's a spring application though, Jeff.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it is. You're right.
It's not a vested claim, but it's a spring
It is a
application.
spring. That's right.
Yeah.
Has your advisory committee reviewed that, Cody?
There was some question that I sent to the engineer who filed the application because there is no spring in the township and the range that was given in that application. There is no private property in that application. It does not have there's not a piece of private in the section identified in there. So that just happened last week. So
there's, it's for springs,
Springs on private property, but the legal description, there is no private property at that legal description.
Okay. I see it was just sent for publication, I think July 2nd. Are you guys going to watch that then and just kind of see what happens?
Yes, yeah, I spoke with Jeremy, and anyways, we're trying to figure out the location, because I'm unaware of where this is even at. So,
Okay. Thanks, Cody.
thank you.
The other one that I flagged is in Nye County. This looks like a change application.
What's the number?
Basin 122, so the applications are 95194 through 95196. It's a designated basin.
It's a dairy.
It's a dairy, so it looks like they're changing manner of use from irrigation to mining and milling. It's a highly over-appropriated, over-pumped basin, but in this case, it's a change application.
Is that Amargosa Valley? Where is that?
Oh, what
That's the only dairy I know about.
No, it's not.
Yeah, I think that you're right.
I don't know that it is 122, let's see. I don't have the.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, so, in any event, when that happens, there's what's called a haircut. They reduce the duty because of the net irrigation water requirements don't apply to mining and milling. So, you know, in this case, I think there's still something that needs to be looked at, just in terms of what impacts that might have, even though you're just moving water from one use to another kind of thing. But nonetheless, it's a pretty significant amount of water in a basin that is over-appropriated by 3.5 times and also over-pumped. So we'll, I guess, keep an eye on that one as well. And, here's another one for Esmeralda County, as if you don't have enough, and you're probably already familiar with this one, 95233, Western One LLC. Any comments, anything you?
We are gonna protest.
You already have protested?
No, not yet, but we are.
You are?
Yes.
Does the board know that?
Do you know that now? This is Western One. Black Butte Mine, right outside Goldfield. It's the one where we're trying to get the road through.
Yeah, no. I have a lot going on. Even earlier, I was thinking of
Your mic's off, I think. I think your mic's off. We just need to be on the record.
Fred Perez, Esmeralda County. That one, myself, I'm not aware of, but we have a lot going on in Esmeralda County, an overwhelming amount.
Well, in this situation, I couldn't find, I don't think, any information, or maybe there is, and I just didn't see it. Is there an RFA date on this, Chris, do you know?
It's not published yet. No, I
Okay.
mean, in the paper, it's not published yet, so it's at least 60 days. And there's another one in here that you didn't highlight, that we're
Oh.
also looking at protest, 95281.
Okay, so for that one, for these three, for this 95233, are you requesting or making a motion for CNRWA to protest, or kind of wait and see and when it's published? I mean, is it possible it'll go back for an amendment or something, or, I mean, do we know?
I'm not sure.
Well, this may be something that falls into our newly amended resolution,
Yes.
where the board doesn't take action to protest, but then if the protest period, the RFA date is before our next board meeting, then I would potentially protest it based on working with Mr. Wagonseller, and then bring it back to the CNRWA board. Is that?
So we had preliminary talks with Dwight Smith, and we should protest.
But you haven't yet?
but it hasn't gone to the board yet.
Yeah, so, okay.
Not, well, it is open, but it's not published yet.
This is interesting, Jeff. I just did a quick Google search for that B&J Dairy. It's a Fallon, Nevada outfit. But the water rights applications are in Nye County. That's all, just
Okay.
interesting.
Well, then let's kind of wait and see on that one. And then, I'm sorry, the other one you had was what?
95281?
Oh, I did miss that one. Do you want to talk about that one?
So
Oh.
this is point mining, this is Bruce, goes back to Gold Point, and the point of diversion is on top of Gold Point's water that they're currently being sued by the person who's also filing this application. And the application is like 3 times the perennial yield.
And what's the status of that as far as the county's
It's
concerned?
Still not published yet.
Okay, so that could be another one we can
Yeah,
keep
at
an eye
least
on.
60 days out.
Okay. So, yeah, I think we amended the policy just in time.
Yeah.
Oh. 2 more for June. PMO and Company LLC, applications 95301 and 95302 in Independence Valley, Pequop. It was submitted June 25th for 8,000 acre, for 1,000 acre feet. The perennial yield is 8,000 acre feet, and the commitments to date are over 12,000 acre feet. It's an over-appropriated basin. I don't know really much else about this because there's no information. So I don't know if there's anybody from Elko County that is on and wants to comment on this, but this is another one that I'm going to keep an eye on as well.
Okay, thank you.
And lastly, a whole bunch of NDOW applications in Basin 184 in White Pine County for wildlife.
All right.
And that's it. I do have one other comment to make here.
We have 6 minutes.
Okay. Sorry. In your packet also are the stipulations that were signed in the case of the CNRWA and Esmeralda County protests for water change applications for Ioneer and Fish Lake Valley. I know Esmeralda County worked very hard, diligently to get this done and protect their water rights in Fish Lake Valley, and I would just like to say they did a great job in working through this process. So our protests will be officially withdrawn.
Withdrawn, yeah.
And then lastly, in the file, we'll bring this up at another time. Oh, that's under another item. That's it, okay.
All right. Item 11 is your director's report, Jeff.
Yeah, just in the interest of time, you're aware that CNRWA joined a number of different entities with regard to appealing the BLM's decision to approve a grant of right-of-way for an interbasin water transfer project in southern Utah, which would impact Beaver County, Juab County, White Pine County, potentially. And that group, and we joined along with all of them and others, to do an appeal, administrative appeal to the Office of Hearings and Appeals in the United States Department of Interior for a petition for a stay which was denied for the reasons that are listed in this report. The appellants haven't satisfied the likelihood of irreparable harm criteria. So anyway, so the next step is number of these counties and others are now in the process of, I think, putting together a case to take this to federal district court. They've hired a legal firm. This was, I know Great Basin Water Network, and I think maybe White Pine County were represented by the Advocates for Community and Environment, Iris Thornton. We worked with her when we signed on to this as well, but it's now a private law firm, I think in Colorado, that has taken on this appeal and will take on the district court appeal. We'll probably be asked to be a party to that lawsuit and possibly even asked to participate financially. I did receive an email from the attorney representing these folks that are appealing. I have no other detail other than to say that they're looking at all of this stuff, and I'll bring it back to the next board meeting should I get something in writing that makes that specific request.
Thank you.
So that's that, and then lastly, let's see. The final approved regulations for extensions of time are also on the board. Keep cutting out.
Thank you.
That's it.
All right. Item 12, board member and executive director comments. I'll open it up. I'll open the floor for board members. Anything you'd like to add for the record? Jeff, anything else?
I have one thing to add. On the geothermal rents and royalties that you receive, I had a very brilliant county comptroller that told us to reserve a portion of those for grant match funds. And it's amazing what it can do for an airport grant where you have 95.5 match.
Yeah.
You can get a project done pretty quickly if you reserve some of that gift money.
If you can afford to, if the
If you
county can afford to.
If you can afford to,
Yeah.
granted.
Yeah. Thank you. Anything else from the board? Jeff, next meeting.
I was thinking either October 16th or November 6th. NACO meets on October 23rd, and Nevada Day is, I think, October 30th, and so either the 16th or the 6th. 6th might, well, it's up to the board, obviously.
May I interject?
Yes, yeah, please.
We have early voting on October the 16th, so that is
Could you say that a little louder?
Oh, yeah.
October 16th is early voting, which is
Oh.
held in chambers, so we're unavailable that day, but we are available November the 6th.
Oh, okay,
Perfect.
so November the 6th, because the chambers isn't available, they'll be doing early voting in here. All right,
October the 6th is a board meeting for Nye County too,
Okay.
in Tonopah.
I thought we always met on Fridays. October the 6th is.
No, we're talking November.
We're talking November, Deb. November 6th.
Thank goodness, got it, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so November 6th, 10 a.m., Churchill County Commission Chambers. Item 14 is public comment. Again, this time is devoted to comments by the general public. This board does not take action on any item discussed under public comment until it has been placed on a future agenda as an action item. Is there any public comment?
Madam Chair, again, I'd just like to thank Churchill County for allowing us to have our meetings here, and to Tara.
Yes.
Thank you for doing all the hard work and making sure everything runs smoothly. We appreciate that, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and for those members in the room, don't make Jeff take all those Krispy Kreme donuts home, so be sure and load your pockets before you leave.
Bag will be empty before he gets there.
That concludes our agenda, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.